As twilight drapes itself over the heart of Central America, the world seems to hold its breath. The last rays of the sun catch the peaks of ancient pyramids, casting long, deep shadows across jungles and valleys. This is a land of echoes, a place where history breathes in the very air around us. Welcome to Mesoamerica, a sprawling mosaic of civilizations that rose and fell long before the first European ships found their way to these shores. Imagine a world teeming with the Maya, the Aztec, the Olmec, the Zapotec, and the Totonac. Each culture, a universe unto itself, with its own language, art, and understanding of the cosmos. They built cities that rivaled any in the ancient world, developed complex calendars, and charted the movements of the stars with astonishing precision. But amidst this incredible diversity, one powerful, unifying thread ran through nearly all of them. A game, in the Nahuatl language of the Aztecs, it was called Olamalisli. To the classic Maya, it was known as pits. We call it simply the Mesoamerican ball game. But this was no ordinary sport. This was an obsession, a ritual, a spectacle that captured the very soul of these ancient peoples. From the arid highlands of modern-day Mexico, down through the dense rainforests of Guatemala and Belize to the coastal plains of Honduras, we find its imprint everywhere. Archaeologists have uncovered over 1,300 ball courts scattered across this vast region. Some are modest, little more than 2 parallel walls in a small village. Others are monumental, like the Great Ball Court at Chichén Itzá, larger than a modern American football field, with towering stone walls carved with intricate and often terrifying reliefs. The sheer number and variety of these courts tell us something profound. This game was not a casual pastime, played only by kings and priests in major ceremonial centers. It was woven into the fabric of daily life, played by people from all walks of society. The rules, the size of the teams, even the ball itself, varied from place to place and from century to century. But the core concept remained. Think about the games that define our world today: soccer, basketball, cricket. They bring people together, they create heroes, they forge community identity. Now imagine a game that did all that, but also carried the weight of life, death, and the fate of the universe on its shoulders. This was not just about scoring points. It was a sacred performance, a reenactment of the cosmic struggles between gods. A moving story of creation, death, and rebirth played out by mortal men on an earthly stage. To understand the ballgame is to gain a key, a special lens through which we can begin to see the Mesoamerican world as they saw it. It was a world where the sacred and the profane were not separate, where sport was a form of prayer and the ball court was a portal to the supernatural realm. The game was played with a solid rubber ball, a marvel of ancient technology, weighing up to 9 pounds or more. Players couldn't use their hands or feet. Instead, they struck the ball with their hips, their thighs, and sometimes their forearms, a feat of incredible skill, strength, and brutal athleticism. The goal? To keep the ball in motion, representing the eternal movement of the celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, the planet Venus. In some versions of the game, the ultimate objective was to pass the heavy rubber ball through a small stone ring set high on the court's wall. A near impossible shot that, when made, could end the game instantly and bring immense glory to the player who achieved it. But what was the true purpose of this game? Why did these cultures invest so much time, energy, and resources into building these courts and playing this demanding sport? The answers are complex, and they take us deep into the heart of Mesoamerican belief systems. The ball game was a political tool, a way for rulers to showcase their power and settle disputes without resorting to all-out war. It was a form of public spectacle, drawing huge crowds and binding communities together. And it was a deeply religious ritual, often culminating in the ultimate sacrifice. Yes, human sacrifice was an integral part of the game in many contexts. The carved panels at sites like El Tajín and Chichén Itzá leave little to the imagination, depicting the grim fate that awaited some of the players. But who was sacrificed? The losers as a penalty for their failure? Or, as some scholars now believe, was it the captain of the winning team, an honorable death that would ensure his journey to the heavens and appease the gods? The ball court was a threshold between the world of the living and the realm of the underworld. Known as Xibalba to the Maya, the game itself was a battle against the lords of death, and the sacrifice was the final necessary act to ensure the renewal of life and the continued rising of the sun. Join us as we step through this portal. We will travel back in time to explore the origins of this ancient tradition among the enigmatic Olmec people over 3,000 years ago. We will decipher the myths written in stone and on painted ceramics. Stories of hero twins who descended into the underworld to challenge the gods at their own game. We will feel the thunderous applause of the crowd, hear the sharp thud of rubber against stone, and witness the incredible agility and courage of the players. This is more than just the story of a game. It is the story of a civilization's view of the cosmos, a dramatic saga of life, death, and resurrection played out for nearly 3,000 years. This is the story of Olamalisli. Thank you for watching, and if you're fascinated by the mysteries of the ancient world, be sure to subscribe and follow our journey. Have you ever wondered where the first ball game was played? Not soccer, not basketball, but a game far older, with stakes much higher than just a trophy. Today, we're traveling back in time, over 3,500 years, to the heart of ancient Mesoamerica, to witness the birth of a game that was part sport, part ritual, and entirely captivating. This is the story of the Olmecs and their extraordinary invention, the rubber ball game. Our journey begins in a place called El Manati, a sacred site nestled deep within the Olmec heartland, in what is now Veracruz, Mexico. Here, archaeologists unearthed something incredible from a sacrificial bog. Ancient rubber balls, perfectly preserved for millennia. Dating back to as early as 1600 BCE, these aren't just the oldest rubber balls ever found. They are the earliest evidence of a team sport anywhere in the world. Imagine that. While civilizations in other parts of the world were building their first great cities, the Olmecs were already playing ball. So who were these pioneers of play? The Olmecs are often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica, and for good reason. From around 1500 to 400 BCE, they laid the foundation for nearly every great civilization that followed, including the Maya and the Aztecs. They carved colossal stone heads with incredible skill, developed sophisticated calendars, and created the first writing system in the Americas. They were innovators, artists, and deeply spiritual people. And at the center of their world was this mysterious and powerful game. But why rubber? To the Olmecs, rubber was a magical substance. It came from the latex of the Castilla elastica tree, which they considered a sacred tree, a conduit of life force. When they mixed this latex with the juice from a morning glory vine, a chemical reaction occurred, vulcanizing the rubber and turning it from a sticky liquid into a bouncy, solid material. This transformation was seen as miraculous. The rubber ball itself became a potent symbol, representing the sun, the moon, the heart of a sacrificed victim, or even the head of a defeated enemy. The bounce of the ball was the pulse of life itself. The game wasn't just a casual pastime. It was a deeply ritualistic event performed in specially built arenas. The earliest known ball courts, discovered at sites like San Lorenzo, weren't grand stone stadiums like the later Mayan ones. They were simpler, often just packed earth-playing alleys flanked by earthen mounds. But their purpose was the same: to create a sacred space, a stage where a cosmic drama could unfold. These courts were liminal spaces, thresholds between the human world and the realm of the gods. Playing on them was a way to communicate with honor and even challenge the divine. And the myths surrounding the game were just as epic as the sport itself. Olmec mythology, which we can piece together from their art and later Mesoamerican stories, was rich with tales of gods, heroes, and epic journeys. The ball game became a central theme in these narratives. The most famous story, later immortalized by the Maya in the Popol Vuh, tells of hero twins who descend into the underworld to play ball against the gods of death. The court becomes the underworld itself, a place of trial and rebirth. Winning the game meant defeating the forces of darkness and ensuring the sun would rise again. The players on the court weren't just athletes. They were reenacting this divine struggle, their movements echoing the cosmic battle between life and death, light and shadow. Think about the players themselves. We see them depicted in Olmec art, powerful, athletic figures wearing protective gear like yokes around their waists, knee pads, and helmets. They weren't using their hands or feet, but striking the heavy, solid rubber ball with their hips, thighs, and shoulders. It must have been an incredibly difficult and physically demanding sport, requiring immense skill, strength, and bravery. The ball could weigh up to 9 pounds and could cause serious injury. Every player who stepped onto that court knew they were participating in something far greater than themselves. This game, born in the sweltering lowlands of the Olmec heartland, would go on to have an immense legacy. It spread throughout Mesoamerica, evolving and adapting over thousands of years, played by Zapotecs, Mayas, and Aztecs. The courts became more elaborate, the rules more complex, and the ritualistic stakes, in some cases, even higher, with evidence of human sacrifice linked to the game's outcome. But the core elements, the rubber ball, the sacred court, and the cosmic symbolism all started here with the Olmecs. They didn't just invent a sport. They created a powerful cultural institution that blended athletics, religion, and cosmology. It was a way of understanding their world, of engaging with their gods, and of confronting the ultimate mysteries of life and death. The bounce of that ancient rubber ball at El Manati was the first beat of a rhythm that would echo through the centuries, a testament to the ingenuity and spiritual depth of Mesoamerica's mother culture. The next time you watch any sport, remember the Olmecs and their sacred game, the true origin of our global passion for playing ball. Thanks for joining us on this journey back in time. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the mysteries of ancient history. We've got so much more to explore together. See you next time. Welcome back to our series on the Mesoamerican ball game. In this chapter, we're stepping onto the court itself to explore its incredible architecture. We'll look at how these spaces were built, how they varied, and why their design was so important for the game and its rituals. So, what did a typical ball court look like? If you were to look at one from above, you'd see a distinct shape, a capital I. This I shape is the classic layout found across Mesoamerica, from the lowland jungles to the high plateaus. At the center is a long, narrow playing alley. This is where the main action happened. At either end of this alley, the court opens up into two wider areas called end zones. The entire structure is flanked by two massive parallel walls that define the playing space. Let's break down these elements. The sidewalls were crucial. They weren't just boundaries. They were an active part of the game. Players would bounce the rubber ball off these walls, often with incredible skill, to keep it in play or to score. These walls could be straight and vertical, like you might see in central Mexico. Or they could be sloped, which was more common in the Maya region. The angle of these slopes dramatically changed how the ball behaved and required different strategies from the players. Imagine trying to predict the bounce of a solid rubber ball off a sloped stone surface. It would have been incredibly challenging. Now, let's talk about the end zones. These were the areas at the top and bottom of the eye. While the central alley was for the fast-paced back and forth, the end zones might have been used for serves or special plays. The rules are a bit hazy, but it's clear these zones were an integral part of the court's design. Within the court, you'd also find markers. These could be flat, circular stones set into the floor of the central alley or sometimes along the tops of the walls. Archaeologists believe these markers might have defined different zones of play, kind of like the lines on a modern tennis court or football field. Crossing a certain line might score a point or trigger a specific rule. These markers were often intricately carved with scenes of deities, warriors, or even depictions of the ball game itself, reminding everyone that this was more than just a sport. It was a sacred event. And of course, we have to talk about the most iconic feature of all, the stone rings. These are the features that everyone thinks of when they picture a Mesoamerican ball court. High up on the sidewalls, you'd often find two stone rings, one on each side, positioned vertically. The goal, in some versions of the game, was to pass the heavy rubber ball through this small hole. Given that players couldn't use their hands and the rings were often placed very high, this must have been an extremely rare and celebrated feat. In fact, some sources suggest that a player who managed to get the ball through a ring might have won the game instantly and could even claim the cloaks and jewels of the spectators. These rings were themselves works of art, often decorated with carvings of feathered serpents or other important symbols. However, it's really important to understand that not all ball courts were the same. The design varied significantly across different regions and time periods. Let's compare the classic Maya style with the style found in central Mexico, like at the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. As we mentioned, Maya courts, like the Great Ball Court at Chichén Itzá, often had sloped walls. These sloping surfaces created a very dynamic game, with the ball rebounding at tricky angles. Chichén Itzá is also famous for its massive size and its beautifully preserved stone rings. The art there depicts players wearing elaborate gear, and the carvings on the court walls show graphic scenes of decapitation, linking the game directly to sacrifice. In contrast, courts in central Mexico, like those used by the Aztecs, tended to have vertical walls. This would have led to a faster, more direct style of play, with the ball bouncing back and forth more predictably, like in a modern racquetball court. The famous Aztec courts, described by the Spanish conquistadors, were often part of larger ceremonial complexes, right in the heart of their cities. Unfortunately, many of these were destroyed during the conquest, so we rely heavily on archaeological remains and historical accounts to understand them. These regional differences show how the game evolved and adapted to local customs and architectural preferences. Some regions didn't even use stone rings at all, suggesting they had a different scoring system entirely. One of the most fascinating aspects of ball court architecture is something you can't see, but you would have definitely heard: the acoustics. These courts were acoustic marvels. The parallel stone walls created a perfect echo chamber. A shout, the thud of the ball hitting a player's hip, or the roar of the crowd would have been amplified and echoed throughout the space. If you visit the Great Ball Court at Chichén Itzá today, you can still experience this. A clap from one end of the court can be heard clearly at the other, over 100 meters away. A whisper can travel along the walls. Imagine the sound during an actual game. The noise would have been deafening and dramatic, adding to the intensity and spectacle of the event. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate part of the design, meant to create an overwhelming sensory experience for both players and spectators. Finally, where were these courts built? Their placement tells us a lot about their importance. Ball courts were almost never built in isolation. They were typically found right in the heart of the city's ceremonial center, alongside the most important temples, pyramids, and palaces. At the Maya city of Copán, for example, the ball court is situated right next to the Grand Hieroglyphic Stairway, a major monument dedicated to the city's royal history. This prime location shows that the ball game was not just a pastime. It was deeply connected to the religious and political life of the community. It was a state-sponsored event presided over by rulers and priests. The games were part of larger festivals and ceremonies, reinforcing social order and communicating with the gods. The court was literally a stage where the drama of power, religion, and cosmology played out. So the ball court was much more than a sports arena. It was a carefully engineered space where architecture, ritual, and sport came together. From the eye-shaped layout and sloped walls to the acoustic design and symbolic markers, every element was designed to create a powerful and meaningful experience. In our next chapter, we'll take a closer look at the players themselves. Who were they? What kind of gear did they wear? And what was at stake for them when they stepped onto the court? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of ancient Mesoamerica to uncover a story of incredible innovation. We're talking about the rubber ball, a seemingly simple object that reveals a deep understanding of technology, chemistry, and craftsmanship. Let's get started. At the heart of this story is a tree called Castelia elastica or the Panama rubber tree. This tree was the primary source of latex for ancient peoples across Mesoamerica. The process began by making careful incisions in the bark, allowing the milky white sap, the latex, to flow out. This raw latex was sticky and not very useful on its own. It would quickly oxidize and harden into a brittle mass. So, how did they transform this goo into the bouncy, durable balls used in the famous ball game? This is where the real genius comes in. Through incredible ingenuity, they discovered a secret ingredient, the juice of the morning glory vine, specifically from the Ipomea alba species. When this acidic vine juice was mixed with the alkaline latex, something amazing happened. The mixture underwent a chemical reaction, causing the rubber polymers to cross-link. This process, known as vulcanization, stabilized the latex, making it waterproof, strong, and bouncy. Essentially, these ancient innovators were practicing a sophisticated form of polymer science thousands of years before Charles Goodyear patented his vulcanization process in the 1840s. They were true pioneers of chemistry. The process itself was a craft. Ball makers would dip a stick into the raw latex, then into the morning glory juice, and then heat it over a smoldering fire. This would cure the thin layer of rubber. They would repeat this process over and over, building up layer upon layer, much like making a candle. This meticulous layering technique allowed them to create a solid, dense core. They would continue adding layers until the ball reached the desired size and weight. Imagine the patience and skill required to create a perfectly spherical and balanced ball using this method. It was a true art form. What's really interesting is that not all rubber balls were created equal. Archaeological evidence shows that the size and weight of the balls varied significantly depending on the region and the specific rules of the local ball game. In some areas, they used large, heavy, solid rubber balls, weighing up to 9 pounds or even more. These would have been incredibly dense and dangerous, requiring immense skill and strength from the players. Imagine being hit by a solid rubber ball of that weight moving at high speed. It underscores the physicality and high stakes of the game. In other regions, evidence suggests they made hollow balls. These were lighter and bouncier, leading to a faster-paced game that might have emphasized agility and quick reflexes. To make a hollow ball, they likely formed the initial layers around a core made of clay or another organic material. Once the rubber shell was thick enough, they could have dissolved or broken the inner core and removed it, leaving a hollow sphere. This variation in ball construction tells us that the ball game wasn't a single, monolithic sport, but a diverse cultural practice with many local variations, each with its own unique equipment and style of play. Beyond the ball court, rubber was a vital commodity in the Mesoamerican economy. It wasn't just used for balls. They made rubber bands, adhesives, waterproof coatings for cloth and containers, and even handles for tools. The knowledge of how to produce rubber was a valuable technological secret. The regions with access to rubber trees and the expertise to process latex held significant economic power. Rubber became a key item in the vast trade networks that crisscrossed Mesoamerica. Olmec, Maya, and Aztec merchants traded raw latex and finished rubber goods over long distances. We see evidence of this trade in the form of rubber artifacts found far from the tropical lowlands where the Castelia elastica asterisk tree grows. Rubber was also a significant tribute item. Conquered city-states were often required to pay tribute to powerful empires like the Aztecs in the form of thousands of rubber balls per year. These balls were not just for the game. They were used in religious rituals and as a symbol of wealth and power. The Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, was a major hub for the redistribution of these tribute goods, including rubber. This economic importance highlights just how central rubber was to Mesoamerican life. It was a resource that fueled economies, equipped armies, and played a central role in religious and social rituals. The humble rubber ball, therefore, is more than just a piece of sports equipment. It's a window into the sophisticated scientific knowledge, economic systems, and cultural practices of these ancient civilizations. It represents a remarkable fusion of natural resources and human ingenuity. The story of the rubber ball is a testament to the incredible innovations of the ancient world. So the next time you think about rubber, remember its ancient roots in the heart of Mesoamerica. It's a story of chemistry, craftsmanship, and culture, all wrapped up in a single bouncing ball. What an incredible legacy! Thanks for watching! If you found this journey into ancient technology as fascinating as I did, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure. See you in the next video. Have you ever wondered who actually stepped onto the court to play the ancient Mesoamerican ball game? It wasn't just a simple sport for everyone. This was a game of status, a game of life and death, and the players were a fascinating mix of society's elite and its most desperate souls. So who were they? Let's dive into the world of these ancient athletes. First off, forget the idea of a local neighborhood league. In many cases, the ball game was the domain of the elite. We're talking about nobles, princes, and high-ranking warriors. For them, playing was a way to display their physical prowess, their courage, and their divine favor. Winning a match wasn't just about scoring points. It was about upholding their honor and proving their right to rule. In Maya art, you often see lavishly dressed kings and lords depicted as ball players, showing just how intertwined the game was with power and prestige. Playing was part of their education, a rite of passage, and a public spectacle to reinforce their authority. But the nobility weren't the only ones on the court. Warriors also played a crucial role. For them, the ball game was an extension of the battlefield. It was a form of combat training, a way to stay sharp and agile. The game mimicked the chaos and strategy of war. Think about it. Teamwork, quick reflexes, and brutal physicality were essential for both. Some historians even suggest that disputes between city-states were sometimes settled on the ball court instead of the battlefield, with warriors playing for the fate of their people. So for a warrior, being a skilled ball player was another feather in their cap, another testament to their strength and value. Now here's where it gets really intense. The game also involved captives. Imagine being a captured enemy warrior. Your fate is already uncertain, and then you're thrust onto the ball court. For these captives, the game wasn't about honor or sport. It was often a final desperate fight for their lives. In many depictions, especially from the Aztec and Maya cultures, you see captives being forced to play before their ultimate sacrifice. Winning might offer a slim chance of survival, or a more honorable death, but losing almost certainly meant a grim end. This transformed the court into a stage for ritual drama where the fate of captured enemies was decided in a public, symbolic contest. And believe it or not, there's even evidence of professional teams. In some of the larger cities, particularly in the Aztec Empire, there were full-time professional ball players. These were the superstars of their day. They were highly trained, incredibly skilled, and probably traveled from city to compete in major tournaments. They likely lived in special quarters, had dedicated trainers, and were celebrated by the public. Of course, being a professional came with its own immense pressures. The stakes were high and the expectations were even higher. These athletes were entertainers, but their performance was tied up in the same high-stakes world of ritual and politics. So you have this incredible mix: nobles playing for honor, warriors playing for glory, captives playing for their lives, and professionals playing for a living. This diversity of players tells us just how central the ball game was to Mesoamerican society. It wasn't just one thing. It was a complex institution that served many different purposes. Now, let's talk gear. You couldn't just walk onto the court in your everyday clothes. This game was dangerous and the players needed serious protection. The most iconic piece of equipment was the yoke. This was a heavy U-shaped belt, often made of stone, wood, or leather, worn around the hips. The name yoke comes from its resemblance to the yokes worn by oxen, and they could weigh over 60 pounds. These weren't just for show. The solid rubber ball could weigh up to 9 pounds and moved at incredible speeds. The yoke was essential for deflecting the ball and protecting the player's vital organs from devastating impacts. Imagine a bowling ball being hurled at your stomach. You'd want some protection too. These yokes were often intricately carved with symbolic imagery, turning protective gear into works of art. But the protection didn't stop there. Players also wore other gear to shield themselves from the unforgiving ball and the hard-plastered court. Padded belts, sometimes called girdles, were worn under the heavy yokes for extra cushioning. They also wore arm guards and knee guards, often made of leather or other padded materials. These were crucial for players who would dive and slide across the court as abrasive surface to keep the ball in play. Think of them as the ancient equivalent of modern elbow and knee pads. The specific gear varied from region to region and through time, but the principle was the same: protect the body at all costs. This gear wasn't just functional. It also added to the spectacle, making the players look larger than life, like the powerful figures they represented. The life of a ball player was one of intense discipline and training. You didn't just become good at this game by accident. From a young age, potential players, especially those from the nobility, would begin a rigorous training regimen. They had to develop incredible core strength to wear the heavy yoke and move with agility. They practiced for hours every day, mastering the difficult technique of hitting the ball with only their hips, thighs, and sometimes their forearms. They needed lightning-fast reflexes and amazing hand-eye, or rather, hip-eye coordination. This training built them into elite athletes, and with that came a certain social status. Skilled players were admired and respected. They were seen as having a special connection to the gods. In the Aztec world, for example, the best players could become famous, gaining wealth and favor from rulers. They were the celebrities of their time. However, this status was a double-edged sword. While they were celebrated for their victories, a loss could bring dishonor, and in the most ritualistic games, it could mean death. Their lives were a constant balance between glory and peril. They lived under immense pressure, where every game could be their last, making their social standing both prestigious and precarious. Finally, we have to talk about the sheer danger of playing the game. We've mentioned the heavy ball and the need for protective gear, but let's really get into the specifics of the injuries. The ball, being solid, dense rubber, could cause horrific internal injuries. A direct hit to the torso without protection could rupture organs and cause massive internal bleeding, which was often fatal. Broken ribs, shattered hips, and severe bruising were common. Players who took a ball to the head could suffer concussions or even die instantly. The game was so brutal that some ancient chronicles describe players who were hit in the stomach or head and died on the spot. Even with protective gear, injuries were a constant risk. The yokes themselves could be dangerous, causing friction burns and bruises. Diving on the hard plastered surfaces of the court would lead to painful abrasions, scrapes, and cuts that could easily become infected. Sprains, dislocations, and broken bones were just part of a player's life. Being a ball player meant accepting a life of chronic pain and the constant threat of a career-ending or life-ending injury. It truly took a special kind of person, brave, skilled, and maybe a little crazy to willingly step onto that court. The physical toll was immense, which only adds to the mystique and reverence we have for these ancient athletes. They were more than just players. They were warriors who battled for glory, honor, and their very lives in one of the most dangerous sports ever conceived. Thanks so much for watching. If you're fascinated by the world of the ancient ballgame, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next chapter. We'll see you next time. Welcome back, everyone, to Chapter 6 of our deep dive into the Mesoamerican ballgame. In our last chapter, we explored the incredible courts where these epic games were played. Today, we're getting into the nitty-gritty, the very heart of the action, the rules of the game. How did players move? How did they score? And what strategies did they use to win this high-stakes contest? So grab your virtual seats, because the game is about to begin. Let's start with the most fundamental rule, how players could touch the ball. Imagine playing a sport where you can't use your hands or your feet. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that was the reality for these ancient athletes. Across most of Mesoamerica, the primary rule was that the heavy, solid rubber ball could only be struck with the hips. Yes, you heard that right, the hips. Players would wear protective gear, like yokes and pads, specifically designed for this. They would lunge, dive, and twist their bodies with incredible agility to propel the ball forward using just their hip bones and the surrounding muscles. Think about the sheer skill and power required. A modern soccer player uses their feet, a volleyball player their hands, but these ancient players had to generate all their force from their core and hips. This created a unique, almost dance-like style of play. You wouldn't see players running in straight lines. Instead, they'd be moving sideways, dropping low to the ground, and springing up to meet the ball at the perfect angle. The movement was fluid, powerful, and incredibly difficult to master. It was a full-body workout that demanded immense strength, flexibility, and coordination. But the rules weren't uniform everywhere. As we've discussed, the Mesoamerican ballgame is really a family of games. Regional variations were common. For example, in some areas, particularly among the Maya, players were also allowed to use their forearms and sometimes even their thighs. This changed the dynamics of the game significantly. Using the forearms allowed for more controlled, precise shots, almost like a bump in volleyball. It added another layer of strategy, as players had to decide which body part was best for a given situation. Powerful hip strike to send the ball flying down the court, or a controlled forearm pass to a teammate. In contrast, in the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, the rules were often stricter, sometimes exclusively limited to the hips and buttocks, making the game even more challenging. You have these players masterfully controlling a heavy rubber ball with very specific parts of their bodies. But what was the goal? How did they score? This is where things get really fascinating. The most iconic scoring method, the one everyone pictures, involves the stone rings. High up on the walls of many ball courts, you'll find these vertically mounted stone hoops. The ultimate game-winning move was to pass the solid rubber ball through one of these rings. Now consider the difficulty. The rings were often several meters off the ground, and the opening was barely larger than the ball itself. And remember, you couldn't throw it with your hands. You had to hit it perfectly with your hip or maybe your forearm, with just the right trajectory and force to make it through that tiny target. It was an almost impossible shot. In fact, historical accounts suggest that scoring a goal through the ring was an incredibly rare event. It was so momentous that sometimes the game would end immediately, and the player who made the shot would be hailed as a hero. According to some chronicles, that player even won the right to claim the clothes and jewels of the spectators, a pretty amazing prize for an amazing feat. But, because scoring through the ring was so rare, it couldn't have been the only way to get points. The game needed a more regular scoring system to keep the action moving. While the specifics are still debated by scholars, it's widely believed that teams also scored points in other ways. more like a modern game of volleyball or tennis. Points were likely awarded when the opposing team failed to return the ball or if they let the ball hit the ground more than once. The objective was to keep the ball in constant motion, volleying it back and forth across the center line. Points could also be lost. A team might be penalized if a player touched the ball with a forbidden body part, like their hands, feet, or head. Hitting the ball out of bounds or failing to get it across the dividing line would also likely result in a point for the other team. This system of gaining and losing points created a continuous, fast-paced rhythm. It wasn't just about waiting for that one-in-a-million ring shot. It was about outlasting and outmaneuvering your opponent in a relentless rally. The game was a test of endurance as much as skill. The physical difficulty of this game cannot be overstated. The ball itself, made of solid rubber, could weigh up to 9 pounds or 4 kilograms. Getting hit by that, even on a padded hip, would be incredibly painful and could cause serious injuries. Players were constantly diving onto hard plastered floors. The pace was frenetic, with the ball zipping back and forth. There were no timeouts, no leisurely breaks. It was an explosive, physically demanding spectacle that required athletes to be in peak physical condition. The combination of agility, power, and raw toughness needed is hard to comprehend. Let's circle back to those regional differences because they are key to understanding the game's complexity. We've talked about the Maya allowing forearms and the Aztecs being stricter. The Zapotecs in the Oaxaca Valley had their own unique traditions as well. Some evidence suggests their games may have focused more on the ground rally aspect and less on the stone rings, which are less common on their courts. In some parts of western Mexico, there are even figurines that depict players using what looks like a handheld stone or wooden implement, suggesting a completely different version of the game. These regional variations in rules from which body parts were legal to the specific ways points were scored meant that a team of Maya players might have had to adapt significantly if they were to play against an Aztec team. It highlights that the ballgame was not a monolithic entity but a vibrant cultural practice that evolved and adapted to the local customs and beliefs of each city, state, and region. The core concept remained the same: keep the ball in play using restricted body parts, but the execution was beautifully diverse. It's like the difference between rugby union and rugby league or American football and Canadian football. They are recognizably the same sport, but the details of the rules create entirely different strategies and styles of play. So to recap the complex tapestry of rules, players used a limited set of body parts, primarily the hips, to keep a heavy rubber ball in constant motion. The ultimate glory was scoring through a high stone ring, an event so rare it could end the game instantly. But the moment-to-moment action was a frantic rally, with points scored by forcing errors from the opponent. The game was brutally physical, demanding extraordinary athleticism. And crucially, the rules were not set in stone. They varied from the Maya lands to the Aztec Empire, each region adding its own unique flavor to this incredible sport. Understanding these rules allows us to truly appreciate the genius of the players and the complexity of the game. It wasn't just chaos. It was a highly structured contest of skill, strategy, and endurance. Thank you so much for joining me for this breakdown of the rules. In our next chapter, Chapter 7, we will delve into the players themselves. Who were these athletes? Were they nobles, captives, or professional sportsmen? We'll explore their training, their status in society, and the ultimate fate that awaited both winners and losers. It's going to be a fascinating look at the human side of the game. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Welcome back to our series, where we delve deep into the hidden histories that shaped our world. Today, we're exploring something truly fascinating, a game that was far more than just a sport. This was a cosmic ritual, a game played between heaven and the underworld. Imagine stepping onto a court not just to play, but to participate in a sacred drama. This wasn't about scoring points for glory. It was about upholding the very balance of the universe. The central spiritual meaning of this ancient ball game was profound, weaving together sport, religion, and cosmology into a single breathtaking spectacle. It was a physical manifestation of their deepest beliefs, a way for mortals to touch the divine. At the heart of this ritual was the ball itself. This wasn't just a piece of rubber or leather. To the players and spectators, it was a powerful symbol. It represented the sun, the moon, and the stars, the celestial bodies that governed their lives. As the ball soared through the air, it was the sun arcing across the sky. As it bounced on the court, it was the moon navigating its nightly journey. Each movement of the ball was a reenactment of the cosmic dance, a tribute to the powerful forces that dictated day and night, life and death. The game was a living myth, a story told not with words but with athletic prowess and ritualistic precision. The players were not just athletes. They were actors in a divine play, reenacting the eternal struggle between cosmic forces. One team might represent the powers of light, life, and the heavens, while the other embodied darkness, death, and the underworld. The struggle in the court mirrored the constant battle between day and night, order and chaos, creation and destruction. The outcome of the game was believed to have real-world implications, influencing the success of harvests, the fortunes of war, and the favor of the gods. This connection to the cosmos was literally built into the architecture of the game. The courts were not randomly constructed. They were sacred spaces, carefully aligned with the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. These alignments were deliberate, designed to mirror the structure of the universe as they understood it. The very layout of the court was a map of the cosmos, with the playing field representing the earthly realm, caught between the celestial realm above and the underworld below. Furthermore, the path of the ball during play was meant to trace the paths of celestial bodies. The court's orientation might follow the trajectory of the sun from its rising in the east to its setting in the west. By playing the game, participants were helping to maintain the cosmic order, ensuring the sun would continue to rise and set, and the seasons would change as they should. The players became agents of the gods, their movements helping to propel the celestial cycles forward. The court was a microcosm, a small-scale model of the universe where humanity could play its part in the grand ongoing saga of creation. The stakes were incredibly high. This was not a game you could afford to lose. In some traditions, the game ended not with a trophy but with a sacrifice. The losing team's captain, or sometimes the entire team, might be offered to the gods. This ultimate price underscored the game's sacred importance. It was a testament to their belief that human life was intertwined with the fate of the cosmos. The sacrifice was seen as a necessary offering, a way to appease the gods of the underworld and ensure the regeneration of life and the continued movement of the sun. It was a powerful, and to our modern eyes, a brutal reminder that this was no mere pastime. It was a matter of life, death, and cosmic rebirth. The players themselves were a unique class of individuals. They were more than just athletes. They were warrior priests, highly trained and deeply respected. They underwent rigorous physical and spiritual preparation for the game. They had to be in peak physical condition to play the demanding, fast-paced sport, which often involved striking a solid rubber ball with only their hips, thighs, and shoulders. But their training went beyond the physical. They also engaged in fasting, prayer, and other purification rituals to prepare themselves spiritually for their role as cosmic intermediaries. They were seen as conduits between the human and divine worlds. Imagine the atmosphere on game day. The air would be thick with anticipation and the scent of burning incense. The stands, packed with people from all walks of life, would be a riot of color and sound. Drums would beat in a rhythm that mimicked the heartbeat of the universe itself. Priests in elaborate costumes would chant and perform rituals, invoking the gods to watch over the game. For the spectators, this was not just entertainment. It was a profound religious experience, a chance to witness the cosmic drama unfold before their very eyes and to feel connected to the sacred forces that governed their existence. Although the most extreme versions of the game have long since vanished, its legacy endures. In parts of Mexico and Central America, modern versions of the game are still played, preserving a link to this ancient tradition. These contemporary games may lack the high-stakes ritual sacrifice, but they retain the incredible athleticism and cultural significance of their predecessor. They serve as a vibrant reminder of a time when a simple ball game could hold the weight of the universe, a time when humanity played for stakes far greater than a championship title. They played for the sun, the moon, and the very continuation of the world. So the next time you watch a modern sporting event, think back to this ancient game. Consider how for thousands of years, sport was not just a competition, but a sacred duty, a way to commune with the divine, and a dramatic performance that connected heaven, earth, and the underworld. It's a powerful testament to the human need to find meaning and order in the vast, mysterious universe. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the past. If you found this exploration of the cosmic ball game as fascinating as I did, please give this video a like. and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into forgotten history. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter. We'll see you next time. Hello and welcome back to our journey through the incredible world of ancient civilizations. Today, we read diving deep into one of the most powerful and enduring stories ever told. The Maya myth of the hero twins. This isn't just an adventure story. It's a tale of courage, sacrifice, and cosmic rebirth that shaped an entire culture's view of life, death, and the universe itself. So grab a seat because we're about to explore the most important ball game ever played. Our story comes from the Popol Vuh, a sacred text of the Maya people. It begins with two remarkable brothers, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, known as the hero twins. They were extraordinary from birth, skilled hunters, and, most importantly, incredibly talented ballplayers. They loved the game and the sound of them playing on their court. The thud of the rubber ball echoing through the world was a sound of joy and life. But this sound traveled far, reaching all the way down to the gloomy depths of the underworld, known as Xibalba. The rulers of Xibalba, the lords of death, were not pleased. The noise from the world above disturbed their grim silence. They were sinister figures, with names like Stabbing Demon and Skull Scepter. They had a history with the twins' family. Years earlier, they had tricked and defeated the twins' father and uncle in the very same ball game, sacrificing them and hanging the father's head in a tree. The lords of Xibalba decided it was time to silence this new generation of players. So they sent a message summoning the hero twins to the underworld to face them in a deadly match. Unlike their father and uncle, Hunahpu and Xbalanque were clever and cautious. They knew the journey to Xibalba was filled with tricks and deadly traps. Guided by wisdom from their grandmother and a little help from some friendly mosquitoes, they prepared for the challenges ahead. The lords of the underworld had set up a series of terrifying trials designed to defeat any who dared to enter their domain. A house of chilling cold, a house filled with razor-sharp obsidian blades, a house of hungry jaguars and more. But the twins outsmarted them at every turn. When they were put in the house of darkness, they used a macaw's tail feathers to create a false dawn. In the house of knives, they spoke to the blades and convinced them to be still. In the house of jaguars, they fed the hungry cat's bones to keep them satisfied. The lords of death grew more and more frustrated as the twins survived each ordeal, their cleverness proving more powerful than the underworld's dark magic. Finally, the time came for the great ball game. The stakes were life and death. The court in Xibalba was a terrifying place, and the lords of death played a brutal game. They used trickery, attempting to use a bladed ball, but the twins were always one step ahead. They played with skill and courage, matching the gods of the underworld point for point. The games were long and intense, a true battle of light against darkness. Despite their successes, the twins knew they couldn't defeat the lords of death in their own realm by simply winning a game. The cycle of trickery would never end. A final great sacrifice was needed. In one of the final trials in a house of giant, deadly bats, Hunahpu's head was tragically cut off. It seemed like all was lost. But his brother, Xbalanque, with the help of some animals, cleverly fashioned a new head for Hunahpu out of a squash, and in a moment of brilliant deception, managed to retrieve his brother's real head and reattach it. Knowing they could not escape Xibalba by ordinary means, the twins devised their ultimate plan. They allowed themselves to be captured by the lords of death. They told the lords that the only way to destroy them was to grind their bones into dust and cast them into the river. The foolish lords, believing they had finally won, did exactly as the twins instructed. They celebrated their victory, thinking the noisy heroes were gone for good. But this wasn't the end. It was a transformation. 5 days later, the twins were reborn from the river, first as fishmen and then as traveling performers and magicians. Their fame spread throughout Xibalba. They could perform amazing feats. They could burn down a house and restore it, sacrifice one another, and bring each other back to life. The lords of death were intrigued. They had never seen such powerful magic. They summoned the two performers and demanded to see their tricks. The twins obliged. Finally, the chief lords, overwhelmed by curiosity and arrogance, asked the ultimate question: "Can you sacrifice us and bring us back to life too?" The twins agreed. They performed the sacrifice, but this time they did not bring the evil lords of death back. They had finally defeated them, not through force, but through cleverness and a deep understanding of the cycles of life and death. With the underworld vanquished, the twins' journey was not over. Their final act was one of cosmic creation. They rose from the underworld, ascending into the heavens. Hunahpu, the brilliant strategist, became the sun, bringing light and warmth to the world each day. Zbolink, the powerful and resilient one, became the moon, ruling the night sky. Their story wasn't just about defeating gods of death. It was the origin story of the sun and moon, the eternal celestial dance that governs all life on Earth. And this brings us back to the ball game. Why was this myth so central to Maya culture? Because it transformed the game from a simple sport into a sacred ritual. Every time a ball game was played, it was a reenactment of the hero twins' epic struggle. The court itself became a symbolic portal between the world of the living and the underworld. The players weren't just athletes. They were participants in a cosmic drama, representing the forces of light and darkness. The game became a powerful metaphor for the cycles of nature and human existence. Just as the twins died and were reborn, the Maya saw this cycle everywhere, in the planting and harvesting of maize, in the daily rising and setting of the sun, and in the journey of the human soul. The ball game was a ritual of cosmic rebirth. It reaffirmed the order of the universe and celebrated the victory of life over death, light over darkness. This is why we see ball court imagery and the story of the twins carved into temples and artifacts across the Maya world. It was the master story, the blueprint for their understanding of the cosmos. The hero twins weren't just mythological figures. They were symbols of hope, resilience, and the belief that even from the darkest depths, life and light will always triumph. Their game was more than a game. It was the story of the universe itself, played out for all to see. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey into Maya mythology. If you enjoyed this story and want to learn more about the ancient world, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what you found most fascinating about the story of the hero twins. See you next time. We all love sports, right? The thrill of the game, the cheer of the crowd. But what if I told you that for ancient civilizations, a ball game wasn't just a game? It was a high-stakes political arena, a substitute for war, a tool for diplomacy, and a brutal display of power. Let's explore the hidden political meanings behind some of history's most intense ball games. When you think of settling a border dispute between two powerful cities, you probably imagine tense negotiations, maybe some saber rattling, or even outright war. But what about a ball game? It sounds crazy, but for many ancient cultures, this was a legitimate form of diplomacy. Instead of sending armies to clash on the battlefield, cities would send their best athletes to compete on the ball court. The stakes were incredibly high. We're talking about land, resources, and political influence. Imagine the pressure on these players. The fate of their entire community rested on their shoulders. A victory could mean securing a vital water source or expanding their territory without shedding a single drop of blood in combat. A loss could mean ceding valuable land and prestige. This wasn't just about athletic skill. It was a complex political negotiation played out with a rubber ball. These games were often preceded by elaborate rituals and accompanied by high-level negotiations between rulers. The game itself was the final public act of a much larger diplomatic process. It was a way to resolve conflict, to test the strength and resolve of a rival city without the devastating cost of war. Think of it as a Cold War era proxy conflict, but with athletes instead of soldiers. The court became a neutral ground where disputes could be settled, making these games a sophisticated tool for international relations. It was a brilliant system, really, a way to maintain balance and avoid endless cycles of violence. Of course, not all games were about avoiding conflict. Sometimes they were about flaunting power in the most spectacular way possible. Imagine a powerful king or emperor wanting to show off his might to neighboring states and his own people. What better way to do that than by staging a massive, elaborate ball game? These weren't your average weekend matches. We're talking about grand spectacles, often tied to major political or religious events, like the inauguration of a new ruler or the dedication of a new temple. The court itself would be a monument, a testament to the ruler's wealth and power. Think of it like a modern-day Olympics opening ceremony, but with much higher political stakes. Everything about these games was designed to impress and intimidate. The sponsoring ruler would pour enormous resources into the event. The players would be the best of the best, trained from a young age, essentially professional athletes. They would wear elaborate uniforms and headdresses, adorned with precious materials like jade and exotic feathers, symbolizing the wealth of the kingdom. The game itself was a showcase of order, discipline, and skill qualities the ruler wanted to associate with his own reign. The message was clear. Look at the level of excellence I can command. Look at the resources I can mobilize. If my athletes are this formidable, imagine the strength of my army. For foreign dignitaries and rival leaders in attendance, it was a thinly veiled warning. For the common people, it was a source of national pride and a powerful reminder of who was in charge. These games were a form of political theater, a carefully choreographed performance of dominance. Now let's turn to the darkest side of these ancient games. They weren't always played by celebrated local athletes. In the aftermath of a successful military campaign, victorious rulers had a problem. What to do with high-status captives? Executing them was one option, but there was another, more symbolic way to display dominance. Force them to play a ball game. This was the ultimate humiliation. These weren't just random soldiers. They were often captured kings, nobles, or elite warriors from the defeated city. Stripped of their finery and forced onto the court, their defeat was reenacted for everyone to see. The game became a living monument to the victor's triumph. Every clumsy move, every missed shot, was a public reminder of their fallen state. They were no longer proud leaders. They were mere pawns in a political spectacle. The outcome of these games was often predetermined. The captives were meant to lose and lose badly. Their failure on the court symbolized the failure of their city-state, their gods, and their way of life. It was a brutal form of psychological warfare, and the consequences could be dire. Historical accounts and artwork from this period often depict these captive players being sacrificed after the game. Their death was the final act in this grim political drama, a symbolic offering to the gods of the victorious city. It was a stark and terrifying message to any potential rivals. This is the fate that awaits those who oppose us. This transformed the ball court from a place of sport into an arena of ritualized violence and political subjugation. So the ball court itself was much more than just a playing field. It was a political stage, a microcosm of the state. The very construction and location of these courts were deeply political acts. Major cities would have multiple courts, often located in the heart of their civic and ceremonial centers, right next to palaces, temples, and government buildings. This wasn't a coincidence. Their placement signaled the importance of the game to the political life of the city. A grand, well-maintained ball court was a status symbol, just like a massive pyramid or a sprawling palace. It told the world that this was a city of power, wealth, and cultural significance. The courts were also arenas for internal politics. Different factions within a city, like noble families or military orders, might sponsor their own teams. A game could be a way for these groups to compete for influence and prestige within the court of the ruler. Imagine two powerful nobles vying for the king's favor. Sponsoring a winning team could elevate their status and grant them political advantages. The court was a place where alliances were forged and rivalries were played out, all under the guise of a sporting event. Even the iconography and carvings on the court walls were political. They often depicted scenes of victorious rulers, mythical heroes, and historical events that reinforced the legitimacy of the current regime. Every element, from the architecture to the art, was infused with political meaning. The ball court was a dynamic space where power was negotiated, displayed, and contested, making it one of the most important political institutions in the ancient world. Looking back, it's just fascinating to see how the meaning of a game can be so profoundly shaped by its cultural and political context. For us, a game is usually a form of entertainment, a way to relax and have fun. But for these ancient civilizations, the ball game was an essential instrument of statecraft. It was a sophisticated tool for diplomacy, a spectacular stage for propaganda, and a brutal theater of war. It shows that the line between play and politics, between sport and power, has always been blurry. The next time you watch a major international sporting event, think about the layers of political meaning that might be hiding just beneath the surface. From diplomatic handshakes to national anthems, the echoes of these ancient traditions are still with us. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this journey into the politics of ancient sports as fascinating as I did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history. Let me know in the comments what other hidden histories you'd like us to explore next. See you in the next video. The dawn breaks, casting a golden hue over the stone pyramids and the sprawling city. But this is no ordinary day. Today, the gods will witness a sacred contest, and the air itself crackles with anticipation. Long before the first player steps onto the great ball court, the spiritual preparations begin. This is a story of faith, spectacle, and the sacred rituals that preceded the legendary Mesoamerican ball game. Imagine the scene. The sun is still low, its rays filtering through the thick jungle canopy. A solemn procession of priests, adorned in elaborate headdresses of quetzal feathers and intricate jade jewelry, makes its way to the ball court. This isn't just a sports arena. It is a sacred space, a liminal zone where the earthly and divine worlds intersect. The court itself is a microcosm of the universe, and the game, a reenactment of the cosmic struggle between light and darkness. Before the contest can begin, the space must be purified. The air grows thick with the sweet, sacred smoke of copal incense. Priests swing ornate censers, releasing fragrant plumes that spiral towards the heavens, carrying their prayers to the gods. This act of smudging cleanses the court of any negative energy, preparing it for the divine drama that is about to unfold. It's a way of sanctifying the ground, making it worthy of the gods' attention and the player's sacrifice. The aroma of burning resin fills the city, a signal to all that the sacred time is near. Everyone, from the highest noble to the humblest farmer, knows what this scent signifies. But purification is just the beginning. The gods demand more. At the heart of the court, or perhaps at a dedicated altar nearby, offerings are laid out. These are not trivial gifts. Precious jade carvings, symbols of life and water, are presented. Intricate textiles, woven with cosmic patterns, are unfurled. And of course, there is food and drink for the deities. Bowls of tamales, rich cacao beverages, and at times, even blood offerings are placed with reverence. These gifts are meant to nourish the gods, to gain their favor, and to ensure they look kindly upon the proceedings. It is a transaction of faith. Mortals offer their most valuable possessions in exchange for divine blessing and a balanced cosmos. As the offerings are made, the priests begin their sacred invocations. Their voices, a low and rhythmic chant, echo across the plaza. They call upon the pantheon of deities intimately linked with the ball game. They might invoke Hunhunapu, the first father and a hero of the Popol Vuh, who himself played the game in the underworld. His story is the very foundation of the ritual. The priests beseech him for skill, for courage, and for a successful reenactment of his cosmic journey. Then they turn their attention to the formidable lords of Xibalba, the shadowy rulers of the underworld. These are the gods of death, disease, and darkness, the very forces the players will metaphorically battle on the court. The prayers to them are not of adoration, but of appeasement. The priests ask them to be fair in their judgment, to accept the outcome of the game, and to maintain the delicate balance between life and death. It's a high-stakes negotiation with the forces of the abyss. Finally, they call upon the maize deity. This god represents life, sustenance, and rebirth. In Mayan cosmology, humans were fashioned from maize dough, so this deity is a literal part of their being. The game, with its cycle of sacrifice and renewal, is deeply connected to the agricultural cycle of planting, growing, and harvesting corn. The players, like maize seeds, will enter the underworld of the court and, through their efforts, ensure the continuation of life for their community. The priests pray for a bountiful harvest, for rain, and for the continued prosperity that the successful completion of the ritual will bring. While these solemn rites unfold, the city awakens to a symphony of sound. The deep, resonant beat of massive wooden drums, the Totonac, begins to throb like the very heartbeat of the earth. This is the call to gather. The sound travels for miles, drawing people from their homes and the surrounding farmlands. Then, a new sound joins the chorus, the haunting, piercing blast of conch shell trumpets. These instruments, plucked from the sea, produce a sound that seems to speak of ancient depths and cosmic origins. The music is not just for entertainment. It's a vital part of the ritual. It helps to alter consciousness, to elevate the mood from the mundane to the sacred, and to announce to both gods and humans that the great event has begun. The combination of drums and trumpets creates an atmosphere of intense, almost overwhelming spiritual power. And the people respond. From all corners of the city, a great crowd converges on the ceremonial center. The public gathering is a crucial element of the event. Nobles dressed in their finest attire take their seats in privileged positions overlooking the court, while commoners fill the standing areas, their faces a mixture of awe, excitement, and devout reverence. The bowl court is now the epicenter of their collective universe. For them, this is more than sport. It is their most profound connection to their gods, their history, and the very structure of their cosmos. They are not merely spectators. They are active participants in the ritual, their collective focus and energy adding to the sacred power of the moment. They gossip, they place bets, but underlying it all is a shared understanding of the gravity of the occasion. The players, who have been undergoing their own private rituals of fasting and prayer, are now brought forth. They are painted with symbolic colors, their bodies prepared for the superhuman effort required. They are seen not just as athletes, but as living conduits for the gods, instruments of a divine will. As they enter the now purified, incense-filled, and music-drenched court, the energy of the crowd surges. The priests give a final blessing, the offerings are accepted, and the rhythmic drumming intensifies. The air is thick with smoke, sound, and a palpable sense of the sacred. The world holds its breath. The rituals are complete. The cosmic stage is set. The game is about to begin. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey back in time. If you were captivated by the sacred rituals of the Mayan ballgame, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into ancient history. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss our next chapter, where the game itself unfolds. See you next time. Hello, and welcome back to our journey through the ancient world. Tonight, as we settle in, let us explore a topic that has sparked debate for centuries: the ultimate outcome of the Mesoamerican ballgame. Chapter 11 brings us to the profound and often somber subjects of death, sacrifice, and the great controversy over who faced this final fate. Was it the victorious captain, granted the highest honor, or the defeated player, paying the ultimate price for failure? For a long time, the prevailing theory was that the losers were sacrificed. This idea seems logical to our modern competitive mindset. The loser pays a penalty. It aligns with a simple narrative of victory and defeat. However, the archaeological and artistic evidence paints a much more complex and fascinating picture, suggesting a reality that challenges our assumptions. The key to understanding this practice lies not in our modern values, but in the Mesoamerican worldview, where sacrifice was not a punishment, but a sacred duty. Let's begin our investigation at the magnificent site of Chichén Itzá in the Yucatan Peninsula. The Great Ball Court here is the largest in Mesoamerica, and its carved stone panels offer some of the most graphic and telling evidence. One famous panel depicts a dramatic scene. We see two teams of 7 players. In the center, a standing player holds a flint knife in one hand and the severed head of another player in the other. The decapitated player is kneeling, and from his neck, instead of blood, emerge 7 serpents, representing life, fertility, and renewal. The serpent was a powerful symbol, often associated with Kukulkan, the feathered serpent deity. This imagery suggests that the sacrificed player's death was not an end, but a transformation that nourished the gods and the cosmos. But who was this player? Many scholars now argue he was the captain of the winning team. The iconography supports this. The severed head still wears the elaborate headdress of a ball player, indicating his status. The act of sacrifice was considered the greatest honor one could achieve. It was a direct way to communicate with the gods, to repay the debt of creation, and to ensure the continuation of the world. To be chosen for this role was to become a divine conduit, to have your life force directly fuel the cycles of the sun, the rain, and the maize. It was the ultimate victory, a glorious death that guaranteed not just personal glory but the survival of the community. The loser, in contrast, would be left to live with the shame of their defeat, denied this sacred honor. Moving to the highlands of Chiapas, we find more clues at the site of Tonina. Here, a stucco panel known as the Mural of the Four Eras shows a captive, stripped of his fine ballgame attire, being prepared for sacrifice. This seems to contradict the winner's sacrificed theory. However, it's crucial to understand that ballgames were not all the same. They were played for different reasons. Some were ritual reenactments of cosmic myths, while others were tied to warfare and the subjugation of rival city-states. In these contexts, captives of war were often forced to play a game they were destined to lose, with their subsequent sacrifice serving as a demonstration of political and military power. The ballgame could be a ritual, a sport, and a political statement all at once. The sacrifice of a captive from a defeated enemy is a very different statement from the honored sacrifice of a team captain after a ritual game. Further evidence comes from the Gulf Coast region of Veracruz, famous for its distinct classic Veracruz art style. Here, we find ceramic figurines and stone carvings or yokes, palms, and hachas, which were part of the ball player's ceremonial gear. Many of these artifacts depict scenes related to the ball game and sacrifice. Often, the figures shown in decapitation scenes are richly adorned, wearing the full regalia of a high-status player. They are not shown as defeated or dejected captives. Instead, they appear serene, fulfilling a sacred role. The art from Veracruz consistently emphasizes the ritual importance and honor associated with the sacrificial act, further supporting the idea that this was a fate reserved for the worthy, not a punishment for the vanquished. So, how do we reconcile these seemingly conflicting pieces of evidence? The answer is that there was likely no single, universal rule. The context of the game was everything. In some monumental ritual games, played to reenact creation myths, the captain of the winning team might have been sacrificed as the highest honor. His death was a willing gift to the gods, a transaction that renewed the cosmic order. It was a guarantee that the sun would continue to rise and the rains would come. In this view, the ball court becomes a portal between the human world and the divine, and the ball itself a symbol of the sun or moon. The player's sacrifice ensures the movement of these celestial bodies. In other scenarios, particularly those linked to warfare, the losers, often high-ranking captives from a rival city, were sacrificed. This was less about cosmic renewal and more about political dominance and retribution. It was a public display of the victor's power and a warning to their enemies. So the question of winners or losers doesn't have a simple answer. The correct answer is likely both, depending on the time, the place, and the purpose of the game. The symbolic meaning of the sacrifice is the thread that ties all these variations together. For Mesoamerican cultures, life and death were not opposites, but two parts of a single, unending cycle. Death was necessary for life to continue. Just as a maize seed must die in the ground to sprout into a new plant, human life force, or tonali, was seen as a precious resource that could be offered back to the gods to keep the universe in motion. The ballgame was the ultimate stage for this cosmic drama. The players were not just athletes. They were ritual participants, and the one chosen for sacrifice was the star of a sacred performance, ensuring the well-being of his entire community. His was not a tragic end, but a glorious transformation. As we reflect on this, we can see how different their worldview was from our own. We see a clear line between winning and losing, honor and shame, life and death. For them, these concepts were deeply interwoven. Victory could mean a glorious death, and that death could mean eternal life for the cosmos. It's a profound and challenging idea, one that asks us to look beyond our own cultural biases and appreciate the deep spiritual logic that guided these ancient civilizations. Thank you for joining me for this chapter. I hope this exploration has given you a new perspective on the ancient ball game and the complex world of Mesoamerican belief. Sleep well, and may your dreams be filled with wonder. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys into the past. Welcome back to our journey through Chichén Itzá. Today, we re-stepping into a space that truly humbles you with its sheer scale, the Great Ball Court. As we walk onto the playing field, just try to take it all in. This isn't just any ball court. It's the largest one ever discovered in the ancient Americas. It stretches for an incredible 168 meters in length and is 70 meters wide. That's longer than a modern American football field. Just imagine the echoes of the past that must still linger here, trapped between these colossal walls. Look up at the walls on either side. They rise 8 meters high, straight up from the ground. They're so massive they almost seem to touch the sky. Picture the scene 2,000 years ago, the court packed with spectators, the air thick with anticipation. The sounds of the game, the cheers, the gasps, all reverberating off these imposing stone structures. Walking from one end to the other feels like a journey in itself. You can almost feel the energy of the players who once sprinted across this very ground, their lives and legacies tied to the outcome of the game. Now let's get closer to these walls and examine the incredible details carved into the stone. The panels at the base of the walls tell a powerful and, to our modern eyes, a very grim story. What you re-seeing here are some of the most famous and unsettling carvings in the entire Maya world. Look at this central figure. He's a ball player, but he has been decapitated. See how streams of what looks like blood are erupting from his neck. But look closer. These streams aren't just blood. They transform into writhing serpents and blossoming water lily. This isn't just a depiction of violence. It's a profound statement about sacrifice, death, and rebirth. The Maya believed that blood was a powerful life force, a conduit for divine energy, In this scene, the sacrifice of the player is shown to be nourishing the earth, bringing forth life in the form of these sacred symbols. The serpents represent Kukulkan, the feathered serpent deity, a powerful creator god. The water lily are symbols of life, fertility, and the underworld. So this act, which seems so brutal to us, was seen as a sacred duty, a necessary offering to maintain the cosmic order and ensure the continuation of life. It's a powerful reminder that the Maya worldview was vastly different from our own, intertwining life, death, and divinity in ways we are still trying to fully comprehend. As we continue along the length of the wall, let's stop and look up. Way up, do you see it? That giant stone ring protruding from the wall. It's set about 6 meters off the ground, which is nearly 20 feet high. And it's positioned vertically, not horizontally like a basketball hoop. There's another one just like it on the opposite wall, directly across the court. These were the goals. The objective of the game, known as Pak to Pak, was for players to strike a solid rubber ball with their hips, thighs, or sometimes their forearms and propel it through one of these tiny rings. Think about the skill that would require. The ball was heavy, weighing up to 9 pounds, and the players were forbidden from using their hands or feet. Scoring a goal must have been an incredibly rare and spectacular event. Historians believe that a single goal could often end the game immediately, securing a legendary victory for the scoring team. Imagine the roar of the crowd when a player managed this near-impossible feat. It is mind-boggling to stand here and visualize the athleticism and precision required to play this ancient sport at such a high level. These rings aren't just architectural features. They are a testament to the extraordinary physical prowess of the Maya Toltec athletes. So what was the purpose of all this? This grand court and its dramatic game were central to the religious and political life of Chichén Itzá during its Maya Toltec era. This wasn't just a sport, it was a ritual. The game was a reenactment of cosmic battles from Maya mythology, a way for humans to participate in the ongoing struggle between light and darkness, order and chaos. The court itself was seen as a portal between the earthly realm and the supernatural world. The outcome of the game had profound implications. It could be used to settle political disputes between cities, to foretell the future, or as the climax of important religious festivals. The players were not just athletes. They were participants in a sacred drama. And as the carvings suggest, the ultimate price of losing, or perhaps even the honor of winning, was sacrifice. This court was a stage for displaying power, mediating with the gods, and reinforcing the social and cosmic order that underpinned the entire Maya Toltec civilization. It's a place where sport, politics, and religion were inseparable, played out on the grandest stage imaginable. As we stand here in the center of the Great Ball Court, it's impossible not to be overwhelmed by its history and significance. This was more than just a place for a game. It was the heart of a civilization, a place where destinies were decided and the fate of the cosmos was played out. The sheer scale, the intricate carvings, and the impossible height of the rings all speak to a culture of immense power, devotion, and complexity. It's a place that challenges our understanding of sport and sacrifice, and offers a powerful glimpse into the soul of the ancient Maya. Thank you for joining me on this tour of the Great Ball Court. It's a truly unforgettable experience. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the wonders of Chichén Itzá, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next chapter. We have so much more to explore together. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the incredible world of the ancient Maya. Today we're stepping onto the sacred grounds of the Maya ball courts. This isn't just about a game. It's about politics, religion, and the very fabric of Maya society. From grand city-states to smaller villages, nearly every Maya settlement had a ball court, a testament to the game's importance. So grab your imaginary rubber ball and let's explore these amazing structures across the Maya world. Our first stop is the magnificent city of Copán, nestled in modern-day Honduras. Copán is famous for its art and inscriptions, and its ball court is no exception. This isn't just any court. It's one of the most beautiful and artistically detailed in the entire Maya realm. Picture this. You're standing in a long, narrow alley flanked by 2 massive sloping stone walls. The court is perfectly proportioned, a masterpiece of engineering. But what really sets it apart is the decoration. Carved into the sides of the court are 6 stunning stone markers, 3 on each side. These aren't just random decorations. They depict scarlet macaws. Why macaws? In Maya cosmology, these vibrant birds were associated with the sun, fire, and the dawn. Imagine the scene: the sun rising over the Copán Valley, its first rays catching the brilliant red, yellow, and blue feathers of a macaw. The bird was a solar symbol, a divine messenger. So, having these macaw markers on the ball court connected the game directly to the cosmos, to the daily journey of the sun across the sky. The game played here wasn't just for sport. It was a reenactment of celestial battles, a ritual that maintained cosmic order. The ruler of Copán, the great Waxaclajun Aboy Keawil, also known as 18 Rabbit, commissioned this court. By doing so, he wasn't just building a stadium. He was solidifying his power, showing his people that he was the one who could mediate with the gods and ensure the sun would rise each day. The Copán ball court is a perfect blend of sport, art, and divine politics. Now let's travel north, into the heart of the Maya lowlands. While Copán's court is a jewel, it's just one of many styles we find. The diversity of Maya ball courts is truly astonishing, reflecting the diverse political and cultural landscape of the time. Let's head to Uxmal, in the Puc region of the Yucatan Peninsula. The ball court at Uxmal feels different. It's grand, but in a more austere, geometric way, typical of the Puc architectural style. The walls are cleaner, with less elaborate carving than Copán's. Instead of macaw markers, the court features two large stone rings, or goals, set high up on the walls. This is the version of the game many people picture, where players would try to hit the solid rubber ball through these impossibly small hoops using only their hips, thighs, or shoulders. The rings themselves are carved with intricate hieroglyphs, reminding us that even here, the game was sponsored by royalty and steeped in ritual meaning. The game at Uxmal was a testament to the power of its rulers, showcasing their ability to stage these grand public spectacles. Next, we journey to the legendary city of Tikal, one of the superpowers of the Maya world. You might be surprised to learn that for a city of its size and influence, Tikal actually has several smaller ball courts, not one single massive stadium like in other cities. Tikal boasts at least 7 different courts, scattered throughout its ceremonial core. One of the most famous is in the Seven Temples Plaza. These courts are what archaeologists call an open-ended style. They lack the enclosed end zones you see at Copán or Chichén Itzá. This might suggest a different variation of the game was played, or that the courts served a more localized, neighborhood function within the sprawling metropolis. The sheer number of courts at Tikal suggests the game was played frequently, and by many different groups within the city, perhaps as part of various lineage or clan rituals. It paints a picture of a bustling, complex society where the ball game was woven into daily life, not just reserved for grand citywide events. From Tikal, let's fly west to Palenque, the city of the famous King Pakal the Great, set against the lush green hills of Chiapas. Palenque's ball court is a classic example of the eye-shaped court, centrally located within the city's main ceremonial complex. It's elegant and well-proportioned, flanked by the palace and temples. What's fascinating about Palenque's court are the carved panels found on its sloping walls. These panels depict scenes from the ball game, showing players in full gear, complete with yokes and protective padding. The inscriptions tell us about the players and the royal patrons who sponsored the games. One panel even names a specific historical ruler, tying the game directly to Palenque's royal dynasty. It served as a stage for political theater, a place where the king could demonstrate his power and piety in a very public way. The construction and maintenance of such a central, beautiful court was a statement of the king's wealth and control. But it wasn't just the megacities that had ball courts. The game was everywhere. Archaeologists have found courts in smaller, regional centers and even in what we might consider villages. This tells us the ball game wasn't just an elite pastime. It was a cultural phenomenon that united the Maya people across different regions and social strata. These smaller courts are often simpler in design, sometimes made of packed earth instead of cut stone, and lacking the elaborate carvings of their big city counterparts, but their presence is just as significant. They show us that the core beliefs and rituals associated with the game were shared by all Maya, from the most powerful king to the local village leader. The game could be used to settle disputes between towns, to forge alliances, or simply as a focal point for community festivals. The differences in architectural styles are a key part of this story. We've seen the ornate, enclosed court of Copán, the ringed court of Uxmal, the multiple open-ended courts of Tikal, and the classic eye shape of Palenque. Some courts have vertical walls, others have sloped walls. Some have stone rings, others have macaw markers, and many have no markers at all. These variations aren't random. They reflect regional traditions, different periods, and possibly even different rules or versions of the game. It's like comparing a modern soccer stadium to a baseball field or a basketball court. They are all for playing a sport, but their design reflects the specific needs of the game and the cultural context in which it's best played. The Maya ballgame was not a single, monolithic sport, but a family of related games that evolved over centuries. At the heart of it all was royal sponsorship. Building a ball court was a massive undertaking, requiring enormous resources and labor. It was a project that only a powerful ruler, a Kewal, a Jaw, or holy lord could command. By commissioning a court, a king was making a powerful statement. He was providing a sacred space for rituals essential to the well-being of the community. He was creating a venue for public spectacle that would awe his subjects and intimidate his rivals. The games were often tied to important dates in the calendar, to military victories, or to the accession of a new king. The inscriptions on courts and related monuments often named the royal sponsor, forever linking his name to this sacred and prestigious activity. The ball game was a key tool in the political playbook of every Maya ruler, a way to project power, legitimize their rule, and communicate with both the gods and their people. So from Copán's solar macaws to Tikal's neighborhood courts, these ancient stadiums are more than just silent stones. They are windows into the soul of the Maya civilization. They tell stories of gods and kings, of cosmic battles and political power plays. They show us a game that was at once a sport, a ritual, and a fundamental expression of what it meant to be Maya. Thanks for joining us on this tour of Maya ball courts. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next chapter. See you next time. Hey everyone, and welcome back to our deep dive into the incredible world of ancient civilizations. Today, we're journeying to the heart of the Aztec Empire, to the magnificent city of Tenochtitlan, to uncover the secrets of a game that was much more than just a sport. We're talking about Tlachtli, the Aztec ball game. Now, if you're picturing something like modern soccer or basketball, think again. Tlachtli was played in massive eye-shaped stone courts, called Tlachtli courts, some of which can still be seen today. Imagine two teams facing off trying to get a solid rubber ball weighing up to 9 pounds through high stone hoops. And here's the kicker. They couldn't use their hands or feet. Players had to use their hips, thighs, and sometimes their forearms or heads to strike the ball. The skill and athleticism required were just mind-blowing. It was a fast-paced, high-impact game, and injuries were common. Players wore protective gear, like leather padding and deerskin loincloths, but it was still incredibly dangerous. The game wasn't just about athletic prowess. It was woven into the very fabric of Aztec society, politics, and religion. For the Aztecs, Tlachtli was a reenactment of cosmic battles from their mythology. The court itself symbolized the underworld, and the ball represented the sun, moon, or stars. The game was seen as a struggle between light and darkness, day and night. It was a way for humans to participate in the ongoing cosmic cycle, helping to maintain balance in the universe. This deep spiritual meaning is why the game was associated with some of the most powerful Aztec gods. One of the primary deities linked to Tlachtli was Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun and war, and the patron god of the Aztecs themselves. His mythological battles were often mirrored in the game. When the ball soared through the air, it was like Huitzilopochtli chasing away the darkness. The game was a tribute to his power and a way to ensure his continued favor, which was crucial for the success of the Aztec Empire, for victory in war, and for the sun to rise each day. Another significant deity was Zapotec, our Lord the Flayed One. Zapotec was the god of agriculture, renewal, and goldsmiths. He represented the cycle of death and rebirth in nature, like a seed shedding its husk to sprout into new life. The connection to Tlachtli is complex, but it often relates to themes of sacrifice and renewal. The game's intensity and the physical toll on the players mirrored the sacrifices necessary for life to continue and for the earth to be fertile. In some contexts, the game was a precursor to sacrificial rituals held in honor of gods like Zapotec, ensuring the cycle of life would go on. These games were major public spectacles, often held during religious festivals. The entire city of Tenochtitlan might turn out to watch. Picture the scene. Huge crowds packed around the court, the air filled with excitement and tension. The nobility would sit in prime locations, adorned in their finest jewels and featherwork. Music from drums, flutes, and conch shells would have filled the air, adding to the dramatic atmosphere. It was entertainment, but it was also a communal religious experience. And where there's high-stakes competition, there's often gambling. Taxli was no exception. The Aztecs were passionate gamblers, and they would bet on everything during these games. We're not just talking about a few pieces of jade. People would wager their property, their cacao beans, which were a form of currency, their textiles, and even their own freedom, sometimes selling themselves or their family members into servitude over the outcome of a game. It shows just how invested everyone was, from the highest noble to the common citizen. The stakes, both on and off the court, were incredibly high. Beyond the capital city of Tenochtitlan, the ball game was played throughout Mesoamerica, with variations in rules and court design. But for the Aztecs, it was a central pillar of their culture. It was a political tool, where rulers could settle disputes or display their power. It was an economic event, driving huge amounts of betting and trade. And most importantly, it was a sacred ritual that connected the Aztec people to their gods and the cosmos. So the next time you think of an ancient sport, remember Taxli. It wasn't just a game. It was a cosmic drama, a religious ceremony, a high-stakes gamble, and a spectacular public event all rolled into one. It tells us so much about what the Aztecs valued, what they feared, and how they saw their place in the universe. It's a powerful reminder that in many ancient cultures, the line between the physical and the spiritual, between sport and ritual, was beautifully and intensely blurred. Thanks for joining me on this journey to the Aztec world. I hope you found it as fascinating as I do. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more explorations into history's most captivating stories. Let me know in the comments what ancient game or tradition you'd like to see next. Until then, stay curious. Welcome back to our journey through the ancient world. Today, we're heading to the magnificent city of Monte Albán in Oaxaca, Mexico, to uncover the secrets of the Zapotec ball game. This isn't just any sport. It was a powerful ritual deeply woven into the fabric of Zapotec society. So grab your virtual passport and let's explore Chapter 15, the Zapotecs and the ball game of Monte Albán. As we step into the early classic period, from around 250 to 600 AD, Monte Albán was a bustling metropolis, the heart of the Zapotec civilization. At its center, you wouldn't just find temples and palaces, but also impressive ball courts. The most prominent one, often called the Great Ball Court, sits right in the main plaza. Imagine this, a long eye-shaped alley flanked by sloping walls. The players, adorned in protective gear, would strike a solid rubber ball, likely weighing several pounds, using only their hips, thighs, and sometimes their forearms. The goal was to keep the ball in play and maybe, just maybe, get it through a marker, but this was more than just a game of skill. The Zapotecs developed a unique regional style for their ball courts. Unlike the later Maya courts with their famous stone rings, the early classic courts at Monte Albán didn't have them. The architecture itself tells a story. The sloping sides, known as talids, were precisely angled. The playing alley was narrow, demanding incredible agility from the players. The acoustics within these courts were likely designed to amplify the sounds of the game, the thud of the ball, the shouts of the players, and the reactions of the crowd, creating an intense, immersive experience. It was a spectacle meant to captivate everyone present. What makes the Zapotec ball game so fascinating are the inscriptions and carvings associated with it. Archaeologists have found stone slabs, known as stelae, near the ball courts. These aren't just decorative. They are historical records. One of the most famous sets of carvings depicts players in elaborate costumes, some even wearing deer headdresses. These aren't generic figures. They likely represent real historical individuals, rulers, or nobles participating in these sacred games. Their names and titles are sometimes recorded in Zapotec hieroglyphs right next to their portraits. This tells us the game was a high-status activity, a stage for the elite to display their power and prowess. One of the most intriguing aspects is the clear connection between the ball game and ancestor worship. The Zapotecs held a deep reverence for their ancestors, believing they could intercede on behalf of the living. The ball game was a way to communicate with these ancestral spirits and the gods. The game was a ritual reenactment of cosmic struggles, the battle between light and darkness, life and death. The court itself was seen as a threshold between the earthly world and the supernatural realm. Playing the game was a way to maintain cosmic balance and ensure the continuity of life. This brings us to the link with lineage authority. For the Zapotec ruling class, the ball game was a critical political tool. By participating in and sponsoring these games, rulers solidified their divine right to lead. The inscriptions often celebrate a ruler's victory in the game, linking it directly to their military success and political legitimacy. Winning a ball game was akin to winning a battle. It was a public demonstration that the ruler had the favor of the gods and the ancestors. These events were huge public spectacles that brought the community together, reinforcing the social hierarchy and the ruler's central role within it. The carvings often show captured prisoners, suggesting that sometimes captives from rival cities were forced to play, with the game ending in their ritual sacrifice. This grim aspect underscored the power of the Zapotec state and its rulers over life and death. As we move through Monte Albán's history, we see the ball game's importance continue. Later courts were built and the iconography evolved, but the core ideas remained. The game was always more than a sport. It was a complex ritual that tied together religion, politics, and social identity. It was where the earthly and the divine met, where lineages were celebrated, and where the fate of individuals and communities was decided on the sacred court. When a ruler stepped onto that playing alley, they weren't just an athlete. They were a priest, a warrior, and a vital link in the chain connecting their people to the cosmos and to the ancestors who came before them. Think about the symbolism. The ball, made of rubber from the sacred Castelia elastica tree, represented the sun, the moon, or the stars. The players' movements mimicked the celestial body's journey across the sky. The court itself could be seen as the underworld, a place of transition. Every match was a reenactment of creation myths. This rich symbolic language meant that everyone watching understood the deep significance of the events unfolding before them. It wasn't just entertainment. It was a collective act of religious devotion and a reaffirmation of their entire worldview. So when we look at the ruins of the ball courts at Monte Albán, we're not just seeing an ancient sports arena. We are looking at the heart of Zapotec ritual life. We are seeing a stage where the grand drama of power, religion, and ancestry was played out for all to see. These stone structures are silent now, but they still echo with the stories of kings, warriors, and the cosmic dance that once defined a civilization. The Zapotec ball game is a powerful reminder that in the ancient world, a game was never just a game. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the ball game of Monte Albán. It's a subject that reveals so much about the intricate and fascinating culture of the Zapotecs. If you enjoyed this exploration, please hit that like button, subscribe for more adventures into the past, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What other aspects of ancient Mesoamerican cultures would you like to explore? Let me know. Until next time, keep exploring. Hello, history lovers, and welcome back to our deep dive into the ancient world. Today, we journey to the lush, tropical lowlands of Veracruz, Mexico, to uncover the secrets of El Chichén, a city that thrived between 600 and 1200 AD. This magnificent site, now a UNESCO World Heritage Treasure, was once the heart of the Totonac civilization, a people whose legacy is etched in stone and deeply connected to a game of life and death. As you wander through the ruins of El Chichén, you can't help but be captivated by its unique architecture. The Pyramid of the Niches is a marvel, with its 365 recesses representing the days of the solar year. But it's the city's 17 ball courts that truly tell its story. That's right, 17. This is more than any other known Mesoamerican city, signaling the profound importance of the ball game, or Alamalisli, to the people of El Chichén. The game itself was a spectacle. Two teams would face off, trying to hit a solid rubber ball through a stone hoop using only their hips, thighs, and sometimes forearms. This wasn't just sport, it was a sacred ritual with cosmic significance. And at El Tajín, this ritual is brought to life in stunning detail through the city's famous carved panels. Let's look closely at the South Ball Court, which contains some of the most intricate and narrative carvings ever found. These panels are like a graphic novel frozen in time. They depict every stage of the ballgame ritual, from players dressing in their elaborate gear yokes, palmas, and hatchas to the intense action on the court. But they also show a darker, more solemn side. One of the most famous panels shows a dramatic post-game scene, the sacrifice of a player. This wasn't a punishment for losing. It was considered an ultimate honor, a sacred duty to appease the gods and ensure the continuation of the world. The player's life-giving blood was believed to fertilize the earth and please the deities, linking the game directly to cycles of death and rebirth. So why did El Tajín become such a vibrant center for the ballgame? The answer may lie in a key economic resource: rubber. The Totonac people controlled the coastal regions of Veracruz, an area where the Castelia elastica tree, the source of natural latex, grew in abundance. This gave them a virtual monopoly on the production of rubber balls, a crucial component for the game played across Mesoamerica. Think about it. El Tajín wasn't just a religious and political center. It was a major manufacturing and trading hub for the most important piece of sporting equipment of its time. The city's wealth and influence were likely built on this rubber trade. They supplied the balls, and in doing so, they also exported their ideology and the ritualistic significance of the game. The carvings at El Tajín were not just local art. They were a powerful statement of the city's cultural and economic dominance. They were saying, "We are the masters of the ball game." This economic power allowed the Totonacs to invest heavily in the infrastructure and artistry of the game. The sheer number of ball courts and the quality of their sculptural programs are a testament to this. The city became a pilgrimage site, a place where teams would come to compete, where rituals were performed at their most elaborate, and where the finest rubber balls could be acquired. The ball game was El Tajín's brand, and they marketed it brilliantly through their art and architecture. The intricate scenes on the panels also provide invaluable insight into the Totonac worldview. We see deities like the rain god Tajín, for whom the city is named, and the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl. These gods weren't just distant figures. They were active participants in the cosmic drama played out on the ball court. The game was a reenactment of mythical battles between celestial forces, with human players taking on the roles of the gods. The movement of the ball symbolized the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. Victory and sacrifice ensured that the cosmic order would be maintained, that the sun would rise again, and that the rains would come. When you piece it all together, the strategic location, the control of rubber, the numerous ball courts, and the powerful narrative art, a clear picture of El Tajín emerges. It was a city that rose to prominence by transforming a raw material into a sacred commodity. It wasn't just a city with a lot of ball courts. It was the capital of the ball game itself. Its influence spread far and wide, carried on the bounce of every rubber ball it produced. The decline of El Tajín around 1200 AD remains a mystery. Perhaps it was environmental change, internal conflict, or the rise of new powers. But what the Totonacs left behind is a legacy that continues to fascinate us. They remind us that in the ancient world, politics, religion, economics, and sport were inseparable. The carved panels of El Tajín are more than just art. They are a window into the soul of a civilization, a story of power, faith, and the eternal game of life, played out on a court of stone under the tropical sun. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of El Tajín. I hope it's given you a new appreciation for the incredible complexity of Mesoamerican cultures. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next historical adventure. Until next time, stay curious. Ever looked up at the night sky and felt a connection to something ancient? The stars, the sun, the moon. They've guided humanity for millennia. But what if I told you that this cosmic dance wasn't just observed, but was played out literally in ancient arenas? Today, we're diving into Chapter 17 of our series, Astronomy, Alignments, and Cosmic Clockwork. We're going to explore how ancient ball games were far more than just sports. They were living calendars, astronomical observatories, and sacred rituals all rolled into one. Imagine standing in the heart of an ancient city, the rising sun just beginning to peek over the horizon. It's the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. The light streams across the landscape, not by chance, but in a perfectly calculated line. And what does it illuminate? A massive stone structure, the ball court. Across Mesoamerica, from the Maya heartlands to the Aztec capital, archaeologists have discovered a stunning pattern. Many of these ball courts are precisely aligned with celestial events, particularly the sunrises or sunsets on the solstices. Think about the Great Ball Court at Chichén Itzá, one of the most famous in the world. Its orientation isn't random. It's built to capture the light of the rising sun on specific important days of the year. This wasn't just for decoration. This was a statement. It was a way of embedding the movements of the heavens directly into the architecture of daily life. The court itself became a sacred stage, where the drama of the cosmos could be witnessed and participated in. When the sun hit that specific point, it signaled that the time was right. The universe was in alignment, and the game could begin. It's like having a giant stone-built cosmic alarm clock, so why go to all this trouble? Why build these massive structures with such astronomical precision? Because for these ancient cultures, the game wasn't separate from their worldview. It was a reflection of it. The ball court wasn't just a playing field. It was a microcosm of the universe. It was a symbolic representation of the world, and sometimes even the underworld. The court itself represented the path that celestial bodies like the sun and moon traveled across the sky. The ball, often made of solid rubber, was more than just a piece of sports equipment. It was a symbol of these celestial bodies. When players hit the ball, they weren't just trying to score a point. They were reenacting the epic journey of the sun rising from the darkness of the underworld each morning, traversing the sky and descending back into darkness at night. The game was a continuous cycle of death and rebirth, mirroring the very rhythm of the cosmos. The two opposing teams could represent cosmic dualities: day and night, life and death, order and chaos. The struggle on the court was a reflection of the eternal struggle that kept the universe in balance. By playing the game, they were actively participating in the maintenance of cosmic order. This deep connection to the cosmos also tied directly into something much more down-to-earth: agriculture. For societies that depended on farming, knowing the right time to plant and harvest was a matter of survival. The solstices and equinoxes weren't just abstract astronomical dates. They were crucial markers in the agricultural calendar. The alignment of the ball courts with these events served as a public and ritualistic confirmation of the changing seasons. Think of it this way: when the solstice sun perfectly illuminated the ball court, it was a signal from the gods, a confirmation that the celestial clock was on schedule. This would be the time for rituals and ceremonies to ensure a bountiful harvest. The game itself could have been a key part of these rituals. A ceremonial match held on the solstice could be seen as a way to honor the gods, to secure their favor for the coming planting season, or to give thanks for the harvest that had just passed. The rhythm of the game was synchronized with the rhythm of the earth. The cosmic, the ritual, and the practical were all interwoven. This brings us to the players themselves. They weren't just athletes. They were performers in a grand cosmic drama. They were living embodiments of cosmic forces. When a player stepped onto that court, they took on the role of a hero, a god, or a celestial body. Their movements, their skill, their struggle, it all had a deeper symbolic meaning. They were the human link between the earthly realm and the celestial one. Imagine the pressure and the honor of that role. You're not just playing for your team. You're playing to keep the sun in the sky, to ensure the rain comes, to maintain the balance of the entire universe. Some scholars believe that the players represented divine figures from creation myths, reenacting the original game played by the gods at the beginning of time. For example, in the Mayan creation story, the Popol Vuh, the hero twins play a ball game against the lords of the underworld and emerge victorious. This story is a powerful allegory of life, death, and resurrection. When human players reenacted this mythical game, they were tapping into that same primordial power. They were reminding everyone of the cyclical nature of existence and the ultimate triumph of life over death. The players became vessels for these powerful cosmic and mythological energies. So when we look at these ancient ball courts, we shouldn't just see silent stones. We should see dynamic, living theaters. The court was a stage, the players were actors, the ball was the sun, and the game was a ritual that kept the cosmic clockwork ticking. It was a sophisticated system that connected astronomy, religion, and daily life in a profound way. The architecture was designed to capture the light of the stars. The timing of the rituals was set by the agricultural cycles, and the players embodied the very rhythm of the universe. It's a powerful reminder that for many ancient peoples, there was no separation between the heavens and the earth. They were all part of one grand, interconnected cosmic dance. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the cosmic side of ancient ball games. It really changes how you see these incredible structures, doesn't it? If you enjoyed this chapter, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part of our series. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What other connections between ancient life and the cosmos fascinate you? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next chapter. Imagine stepping back in time, not into a dusty, silent museum, but into the vibrant, chaotic, and utterly alive heart of a Maya city. We're not looking at kings or priests today. We're diving into the daily life of the common people, exploring the places where life truly happened, the markets, the festivals, and the community gatherings. Our focus? One of the most electrifying events in the ancient world, the Maya ball game. Forget what you think you know about ancient sports. This wasn't just a game. It was a spectacle, a religious ceremony, and a massive social gathering all rolled into one. It was the Super Bowl, a country fair, and a sacred ritual combined. And it reveals so much about how the Maya people lived, worked, and celebrated together. Let's set the scene. The sun is high in the tropical sky, casting sharp shadows across the limestone plazas. You can hear a low hum of excitement building, a sound that grows into a roar as you approach the city center. This isn't just any day, it's a ball game day. The Great Stone Ball Court, a defining feature of almost every major Maya city, is the epicenter of today's world. But the event starts long before the first bounce of the rubber ball. The areas around the court have transformed into a sprawling, bustling market. This is where the magic of daily life unfolds. Merchants have traveled for days, their backs laden with goods, to be here. Their stalls are a riot of color, sound, and smell. You see vendors calling out, their voices weaving into a tapestry of commerce. Over here, a woman is selling steaming tamales wrapped in corn husks, the savory aroma of maize and seasoned meat filling the air. Next to her, a man offers cups of frothy, spiced chocolate, a drink once reserved for the elite, but now available for a price to those who want a taste of luxury on this special day. The air is thick with the scent of copal incense, sold as offerings for the gods, its fragrant smoke believed to carry prayers to the heavens. It's a feast for the eyes as well. Piles of brilliantly colored textiles are stacked high, the intricate patterns telling stories of different villages and lineages. You can see fabrics dyed with cochineal red, indigo blue, and a spectrum of vibrant yellows and greens. Imagine the rustle of these cloths as potential buyers run their hands over the fine weaving. There are potters displaying their wares, from simple, everyday cooking pots to elaborately painted ceremonial vessels. Craftsmen are selling obsidian blades, sharp enough to split a hair, and jade beads, the most precious of all materials, glowing with a cool green light. This market isn't just a place to buy things. It's the economic heartbeat of the community, a place where wealth is exchanged and fortunes can be made or lost. As the time for the game approaches, the crowd swells. This is a family affair. Parents arrive with their children, finding a spot on the sloped walls of the ball court to get the best view. You can picture the excitement in a child's eyes, seeing the towering players emerge onto the court for the first time. Grandparents are there too, perhaps sharing stories of legendary games from their youth. It's a chance for neighbors to catch up, for young people to see and be seen, and for the entire community to come together as one. The atmosphere is electric, filled with chatter, laughter, and a sense of shared anticipation. It's a social event of the highest order, a break from the daily grind of farming and labor. And then, the game begins. The players, adorned in heavy protective gear, enter the court. They are athletes of incredible skill and stamina. The solid rubber ball, weighing several kilograms, is put into play. The rules are complex, but the objective is to keep the ball in motion using only their hips, thighs, and sometimes their upper arms, and to score by passing it through one of the stone rings high on the court walls. It's a brutal, fast-paced spectacle. The thud of the ball against the player's hip guard echoes through the court. The crowd gasps, cheers, and shouts encouragement. They follow every move, their collective energy rising and falling with the flow of the game. But as we watch this incredible athletic display, we must remember the deeper meaning. This is more than just sport. The ball game is a reenactment of a sacred story from the Popol Vuh, the Maya creation myth. It represents the cosmic struggle between the forces of life and death, light and darkness. The two teams aren't just competitors. They are stand-ins for the hero twins who defeated the lords of the underworld in a fateful ball game. The court itself is a symbolic portal to Xibalba, the Maya underworld. So with every move the players make, they are participating in a divine drama. This is why you see priests observing, chanting, and burning incense. The game is a prayer in motion, a ritual to maintain the balance of the cosmos. This is the beautiful paradox of the Maya ballgame day. The mixture of the sacred and the profane, the religious solemnity and the joyful, chaotic social life. One moment, you're haggling with a merchant over the price of a beautiful woven sash. The next, you're caught up in a moment of profound religious significance, watching a ritual that ensures the sun will rise again tomorrow. This duality is central to understanding Maya life. For them, there was no sharp division between the spiritual and the mundane. The gods were present in the marketplace, at the family meal, and especially here, at the ball game. Imagine the game ending. The sun begins to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The winning team is celebrated not just as athletes, but as instruments of the gods. The crowd slowly begins to disperse. Families gather their children, now tired but full of memories. Merchants pack up their remaining goods, their pouches heavier with cacao beans, the currency of the day. The energy of the plaza slowly subsides, returning to a quieter rhythm. But the bonds of the community have been strengthened. People leave with full bellies, new possessions, and a renewed sense of their place in the universe. These event days were the glue that held Maya society together. They reinforced social structures, powered the economy, and reaffirmed their shared cosmology. By looking at a single ballgame day, we can see the entire Maya world in miniature. We see the farmer, the artisan, the merchant, the priest, and the noble, all playing their part in a grand interconnected system. It shows us that ancient life wasn't just about pyramids and prophecies. It was about community, celebration, and the everyday human experiences that connect us all across the centuries. It was loud, it was colorful, it was deeply spiritual, and it was intensely alive. And that's a world worth exploring. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the heart of a Maya city. I hope it gave you a new perspective on these incredible people. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the ancient world. Let me know in the comments what aspect of daily Maya life you'd like to see next. See you in the next chapter. Welcome back to our series on the Mesoamerican ballgame. Today, we're diving into a dark and pivotal chapter in its history, the fall of the game. Imagine a tradition that has thrived for thousands of years, woven into the very fabric of society, from daily life to sacred ritual. Now imagine it facing a force that seeks not to understand, but to erase. This is the story of the game's encounter with the Spanish conquistadors. When the Spanish arrived in the early 16th century, they were met with a world entirely alien to their own. They saw towering pyramids, complex societies, and a game that captivated them with its skill and intensity. Early accounts from figures like Hernan Cortes express a kind of fascinated bewilderment. They were amazed by the rubber ball, something they had never seen before, and the incredible athleticism of the players who could keep it in motion using only their hips and thighs. But this fascination quickly soured, replaced by suspicion and condemnation. The Spanish, driven by a fervent desire to convert the indigenous populations to Christianity, viewed the world through a rigid lens of good and evil, Christian and pagan. To them, the ballgame wasn't just a sport. It was a demonic ritual. The courts were pagan temples, the players were idolaters, and the human sacrifices sometimes associated with the game were undeniable proof of its satanic nature. The Dominican friar Diego Duran wrote extensively about the game, and while his writings give us invaluable insight, they are also colored by this deep-seated prejudice. He and other clergymen saw the game as a direct obstacle to their mission. It was a powerful symbol of the old ways, a communal activity that reinforced the very beliefs they were trying to dismantle. This condemnation was not just words. It was a call to action. The Spanish began a systematic campaign to eradicate the game. One of the most direct and devastating methods was the destruction of the courts themselves. These magnificent structures, which had been the heart of Mesoamerican cities for centuries, were torn down stone by stone. Think about the Great Ball Court at Chichén Itzá or the courts of Monte Albán. These weren't just playing fields. They were architectural marvels and sacred spaces. Their destruction was a powerful act of cultural vandalism, a way of physically erasing the game from the landscape and the public consciousness. In the newly founded colonial cities like Mexico City, built on the ruins of the Aztec capital Tenochtitlan, new churches were often constructed using the very stones from dismantled temples and ball courts. The message was clear: a new god and a new order had arrived. But it wasn't just the physical structures that were lost. The very soul of the game was under attack. For millennia, the ball game was steeped in ritual and religious meaning. It was a reenactment of cosmic myths, a way to communicate with the gods, a means of settling disputes and a stage for political theater. The game's outcome could determine the fate of captives, the succession of rulers, or even the movement of the sun and stars. Every aspect, from the creation of the rubber ball to the pre-game ceremonies, was imbued with spiritual significance. Under Spanish rule, this entire symbolic universe was declared heretical and outlawed. Playing the game became an act of defiance, a crime punishable by severe penalties. This forced the ritualistic elements of the game into secrecy, or caused them to be forgotten altogether. The priests and nobles, who were the custodians of this sacred knowledge, were often the first to be targeted by the Spanish, their knowledge dying with them. The intricate cosmology, the stories of the hero twins playing in the underworld, the connection to agricultural cycles, all of this rich meaning was stripped away. The game, if played at all, was reduced to a mere shadow of its former self, severed from its spiritual roots. The loss was immeasurable. It was as if the Super Bowl were suddenly banned, and not only that, but all knowledge of football's rules, history, and cultural importance was systematically erased. So, did the Spanish succeed? Did they wipe the game off the face of the earth? The answer is no, not entirely. While the grand state-sponsored version of the game with its massive stone courts and high-stakes rituals disappeared from the major population centers, the spirit of the game proved to be incredibly resilient. It survived, not in the open, but in the shadows. In more remote, mountainous regions of Mexico, far from the watchful eyes of colonial authorities, indigenous communities managed to preserve a version of the game. These areas, like parts of Oaxaca and Sinaloa, were more difficult for the Spanish to control, allowing for a degree of cultural autonomy. Here, the game continued, albeit in a transformed state. It was no longer played in magnificent stone courts, but on simple earthen fields. The elaborate religious ceremonies were gone, replaced by more localized traditions and meanings. The game, which was once a grand spectacle, became a village affair. This version of the game that survived is what we now know as Ulema. Ulimi is the direct descendant of the ancient Mesoamerican ballgame, a living link to a pre-Columbian past. It's played in a few small communities in the state of Sinaloa, and it's a testament to the tenacity of cultural memory. The players still use a heavy, solid rubber ball, and the rules still forbid using hands or feet. Watching an ulama match today is like peering through a window into the past. It's a simpler, more rustic version, but the core elements, the incredible skill, the hip strikes, the raw athleticism are all there. The survival of ulama is nothing short of a miracle. It endured centuries of suppression, prejudice, and neglect. For a long time, it was seen by outsiders as little more than a quaint folk curiosity. But for the communities that kept it alive, it was more than that. It was a connection to their ancestors, a source of identity, and an act of cultural resistance. They held on to the game when the world tried to tear it away from them. The story of the ballgame's fall and survival is a powerful lesson in cultural resilience. It shows how a dominant power can try to erase a tradition, destroying its symbols and persecuting its practitioners. But it also shows that culture is not so easily extinguished. It can go underground, it can adapt, it can shed its skin, but as long as there are people willing to remember and to practice, its spirit can endure. The Spanish conquistadors may have toppled the temples and torn down the courts, but they could not completely destroy the game. In the remote villages of Mexico, the bounce of the rubber ball, a sound that has echoed through the Americas for over 3,000 years, was never truly silenced. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the past. The story of the Mesoamerican ballgame is far from over, and in our next episode, we'll look at its modern revival and what it means to people today. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. See you then. Hello and welcome back to our journey through the incredible history of the Mesoamerican ballgame. In our final chapter, we're not looking back at ruins, but forward into the vibrant and powerful revival of this ancient sport. The echoes of the past are not silent. They're thundering back to life across Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize. This isn't just about playing a game. It's about reclaiming a legacy. For centuries, the ball courts of Mesoamerica lay dormant, silent witnesses to a tradition that seemed lost to time. The Spanish conquest, followed by colonial rule, actively suppressed indigenous practices. The game, with its deep cosmic and political significance, was a prime target. The rubber balls, the sacred courts, the ritualistic attire all but vanished from daily life, surviving only in crumbling stone reliefs and the pages of codices. But a culture spirit is not so easily extinguished. Deep within the communities descended from the Maya, the Aztec, and the Zapotec, the memory of the game known as Poctopoc to the Maya and Olamalisli to the Aztecs, was kept alive through oral traditions and a profound connection to their heritage. Now, in the 21st century, that dormant spirit has awakened with incredible force. Across the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, in the highlands of Guatemala, and deep within Belize, a powerful resurgence is underway. This isn't a historical reenactment for tourists. This is a grassroots movement, driven by indigenous communities who see the game as a vital link to their ancestors and a powerful symbol of cultural identity. They are rebuilding courts, not as museum pieces but as living community centers. They are crafting the heavy rubber balls, relearning the complex rules, and reconditioning their bodies for the incredible athleticism the game demands. Let's take a closer look at what this revival actually looks like on the ground. In Mexico, organizations like the Asociación de Juegos y Deportes Autóctonos y Tradicionales de Quintana Roo are at the forefront. They organize workshops, training sessions, and regional tournaments. Imagine this: young men and women, clad in traditional loincloths and protective gear, their bodies painted with ancient symbols, competing with a ferocity and skill that would make their ancestors proud. The sound of the solid rubber ball, weighing up to 9 pounds, smacking against hips and thighs, echoes once again in the modern world. It's a sound of resilience, a sound of survival. These players aren't just athletes. They are cultural custodians. They study ancient texts and consult with archaeologists and elders to ensure every aspect of the game is as authentic as possible. This includes the spiritual and ritual components. Before a match, you might see players participating in ceremonies, burning copal incense, and asking for blessings, connecting the physical act of playing with the cosmic drama it has always represented. The game is a moving prayer, a physical dialogue with history. The movement is just as strong in Guatemala, where the game is a key part of the revitalization of Mayan identity. Here, community leaders are teaching Poctopoc to a new generation, many of whom are rediscovering a heritage that was systematically denied to them. For these young people, learning to play the game is an act of defiance and pride. It connects them to a lineage of kings, warriors, and astronomers. It tells them that their culture is not something of the past, but a living, breathing force in the present. In towns around Lake Atitlan and in the Patton region, you can see makeshift courts bustling with activity, as kids learn the hip-striking techniques that have been passed down through generations of memory. And in Belize, the story continues. At sites like Lamanai and Zunantunich, the ancient ball courts are no longer just archaeological wonders to be gazed at. They are being used. Belizean teams, often traveling to compete in international indigenous games, are demonstrating the power of Poctopoc to unite people across modern borders, reconnecting a cultural landscape that was once a unified Maya world. These games become more than competitions. They are festivals of indigenous identity, celebrating shared language, art, and history. A huge part of this revival is thanks to dedicated cultural preservation groups. These organizations are the lifeblood of the movement. They are the ones documenting the oral histories, teaching the ancient techniques, and creating the educational materials needed to pass this knowledge on. They work tirelessly to secure funding, build new courts, and organize events that bring communities together. Their work is a race against time, an effort to capture and codify knowledge that, for so long, was in danger of being forgotten forever. They are creating a living archive, not of text, but of motion, of skill, of community. The global community is also taking notice. There is a growing push to have the Mesoamerican ball game recognized by UNESCO as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. This recognition would be monumental. It would provide international support and protection for the game, ensuring that the communities practicing it have the resources they need to keep it alive for generations to come. It would validate their efforts on a global stage, affirming that this is not just a regional curiosity, but a priceless piece of our shared human story. Getting this recognition is a complex process, requiring extensive documentation and advocacy, and it's a goal that unites revival groups across all 3 countries. So why does this ancient game resonate so strongly today? Because it's more than a sport, it's a bridge. It connects young indigenous people with the grandeur and wisdom of their ancestors. In a world where globalization can often erase local identities, the ball game provides a powerful anchor. It's a way to say, we are still here, our traditions are still powerful. Our story is not over. Playing the game is a physical manifestation of cultural pride. When a player strikes the ball with their hip, they are not just trying to score a point. They are reenacting a sacred tradition, embodying a history, and asserting their place in the world. And this brings us to the very heart of the game, its cosmic symbolism. As we've explored throughout this series, the ball game was never just about winning or losing. It was a ritual reenactment of the celestial struggle, the movement of the sun, moon, and stars. The ball represented a heavenly body, and the players were participants in a cosmic dance of creation and destruction, life and death. The court was a liminal space, a portal between the earthly realm and the supernatural world. Does this symbolism still resonate today? Absolutely. While the practice of human sacrifice has been left in the past, the deeper spiritual meaning endures. Modern players speak of feeling a profound connection to the universe when they play. They describe the intense focus required as a form of meditation, a way of aligning themselves with the rhythms of the natural world. The court is still a sacred space, and the game is still a story. It's the story of the hero twins from the Popol Vuh who defeated the lords of the underworld in a game of POK-TA-POK. It's the story of resilience, of light triumphing over darkness, of life emerging from death. This cosmic drama is a powerful metaphor for the experience of indigenous communities today. They are the modern hero twins, fighting to reclaim their world, to bring their culture back from the underworld of historical oblivion into the light of the present day. The revival of the ball game is a victory in that struggle. It proves that a culture can endure conquest, suppression, and centuries of neglect, and still rise again, as powerful and as meaningful as ever. The resurgence of the Mesoamerican ball game is one of the most inspiring stories of cultural revival in the world today. It's a testament to the enduring power of tradition and the unbreakable spirit of the human will to remember. The next time you see an image of an ancient ball court, don't just see it as a ruin. Imagine it filled with life, with the thunderous sound of a rubber ball, with the shouts of players and spectators, and know that somewhere right now that scene is being played out for real. The game is alive. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey. It has been an honor to explore the depths of this amazing tradition with you. If you've been inspired by this story, please share it and continue to support the work of cultural preservation everywhere. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Thanks for watching. And so, we arrive at the end of our journey, a gentle goodbye from the ancient courts. As we stand here in the quiet of this place, let the rush of the modern world fall away. Let's take a moment for slow, peaceful reflection. The air itself feels heavy with memory, thick with the stories of generations that have passed through these stone corridors. Look around. These walls, weathered by centuries of sun and rain, are more than just architectural remnants. They are monuments to a worldview, a philosophy carved in stone. This isn't just a space for a game. It's a stage where the human and the divine met, where the earthly realm touched the cosmos. For the people who built this, there was no division between the ground beneath their feet and the vast, star-dusted sky above. The court was a microcosm of the universe, an axis mundi connecting the underworld, the earth, and the heavens. The game played here wasn't mere sport. It was a sacred ritual, a reenactment of the cosmic struggle between light and darkness, life and death. The players weren't just athletes. They were participants in a story much larger than themselves, their movements mirroring the paths of the sun, the moon, and the planets. Imagine the sounds that once filled this space. Not the quiet whispers of wind we hear today, but the roar of a crowd, the rhythmic chants, the sharp crack of a rubber ball hitting stone. Close your eyes and listen. Can you hear it? That sound, the thud of the ball against the slanted walls, wasn't just the sound of a game. It was the heartbeat of a civilization. A steady, powerful rhythm that pulsed through the heart of their cities and their culture. Each strike was a moment in time, a percussive beat in the grand symphony of their existence. It marked the passage of seasons, the cycles of ritual, and the very pulse of life itself. That sound echoed the rhythm of creation, the eternal dance of the cosmos played out right here on this earthly stage. This court, now silent, was once a vibrant nexus of community, politics, and faith. It was here that destinies were decided, alliances forged, and tribute paid. It was a place of high drama and profound meaning. The victors were heroes, embodying the strength and favor of the gods. The game was a way to resolve conflicts, to make sense of the universe, and to ensure its continued harmony. Every element, from the court's precise astronomical alignment to the intricate carvings on its walls, was imbued with purpose and deep symbolic power. The jaguar, the eagle, the plumed serpent, these weren't just decorations. They were potent symbols of the forces that governed their world. As we stand here, the sun begins to set, casting long, dramatic shadows across the court. The stone, which baked in the afternoon heat, now begins to cool, releasing the day's energy back into the evening air. This is a time of transition, a magical threshold between day and night, just as the court itself was a threshold between worlds. It's easy to feel the presence of the past in a place like this. To feel that the veil between then and now is incredibly thin. The spirits of the players, the priests, and the spectators seem to linger, their energy woven into the very fabric of this site. Let your imagination wander. Picture this court not as a ruin, but as it was in its prime. The stone walls are plastered and painted in brilliant colors, vibrant reds, blues, and yellows, gleaming under the tropical sun. Elaborate banners and tapestries hang from the sides, fluttering in the breeze. The stands are filled with people from every walk of life, dressed in their finest woven textiles, their faces painted for the occasion. The air is thick with the scent of copal incense, burning in ornate censers, its fragrant smoke curling upwards towards the heavens, carrying prayers to the gods. The tension is palpable. The two teams enter the court, their bodies adorned with protective gear yokes around their waists, pads on their knees and elbows. They are powerful, graceful, their movements honed by years of practice. They are not just playing for victory. They are playing for the balance of the universe. The high priest, in his magnificent feathered headdress, raises his hands, and a hush falls over the crowd. The game begins. The heavy ball is put into play, and the court comes alive with a flurry of motion. Players leap and contort, striking the ball with only their hips, thighs, and shoulders, their bodies moving with an almost supernatural agility. The ball becomes a blur, a dark sphere arcing through the air, a symbol of the sun or moon on its celestial journey. The players are not just men, they are conduits of cosmic energy. Their struggle on the court is a reflection of the eternal battle between the sun and the forces of the night. Every successful pass, every near miss, every thunderous impact against the stone rings elicits a gasp or a cheer from the captivated audience. This was more than entertainment. It was a deeply spiritual experience, a collective participation in the sacred drama of existence. The fate of the harvest, the success of a military campaign, the very order of the cosmos could hang in the balance. Now, as dusk deepens into twilight, let that vision transform. The setting sun is replaced by another kind of light. Imagine flickering torches being lit along the top of the walls. Their flames dance and cast long, moving shadows that make the carved figures on the walls seem to come alive. The court is now bathed in a warm golden glow, a sacred space carved out of the darkness. Above, the sky is a deep, velvety black, punctured by the brilliant pinpricks of a million stars. The Milky Way, their celestial river, arches over the court like a great cosmic road. Here, in the cool of the night, under the watchful eyes of the stars, the rituals might continue. Perhaps the game was played at night, the black rubber ball almost invisible against the dark sky, the players relying on instinct and an intimate knowledge of the court's geometry. Or perhaps this is a time for ceremony, for storytelling, for priests to trace the constellations and recount the myths of creation. The torchlight would make the court feel intimate and mysterious, a womb of stone and shadow where the sacred secrets of the universe were revealed. Allow yourself to drift off in this moment. Let your mind wander back through the centuries. Feel the cool night air on your skin. Hear the distant echo of drums, the faint murmur of ancient voices. See the starlight reflected in the polished stone of the court floor. This place is not dead. It is sleeping, dreaming of its former glory. It is a portal, a place where time itself feels fluid and the past is always present, waiting to be remembered. We are just the latest in a long line of visitors to stand in awe of its power and its mystery. By connecting with this space, by allowing ourselves to imagine its vibrant past, we honor the civilization that created it. We recognize their ingenuity, their artistry, and their profound spiritual depth. We see that they were not so different from us. They sought to understand their place in the universe, to find meaning in the cycles of life and death, and to connect with something larger than themselves. These stone courts are their legacy, a beautiful and enduring testament to their quest. As we finally turn to leave, we carry a piece of this place with us: the silence, the history, the sheer weight of time. The ancient ball courts are more than just archaeological sites. They are echoes of a lost song, a silent poem written in stone. They remind us that our own world, our own games, our own beliefs are part of a much longer human story. They invite us to look up at the sky, to feel the ground beneath our feet, and to remember that there was once a time when there was no division between the two. Thank you for joining me on this journey through time. I hope it has been as moving for you as it has been for me. The story of humanity is vast and filled with wonder, and there are always new chapters to explore. If you've enjoyed this exploration, please consider subscribing for more journeys into the heart of our shared past. Until next time, may you find history and wonder in the world around you.